December 11th, 2019. 11 game slate. No Giannis Antetokounmpo today, so that means that everything you thought you knew was bullshit. I mean, let's not beat around the bush, Adam.
Yeah, it just changes the entire slate. But I kind of like it. I like when we get news like that on bigger slates because you can roster the guys that, in this case, Bledsoe Middleton type guys. And normally they're still not going to be like, 80, 85% owned or anything crazy like that. And it just, opens up more stuff. It made that game, I think, more appealing since it's less likely that they just beat the shit out of the Pels now. So I was actually kind of happy when he got rolled out.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. The question isn't whether they will or won't be 85%, but should they be?
Right. Should they? Yes.
Yes. I totally agree. We'll jump into all of that. But first, let's say hi to our sponsor, Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, home of the $175,000 NFL baller. And today, up in prize pools a bit, $35K NBA baller, $10 to enter, $5K to first. Got that MME going. Little CSV uploads, CSV edits over there at Yahoo. It's a management-free contest if you look hard enough, meaning everything paid in by the player gets paid back out to the player. Some no veterans contests too, which is nice for anyone that's just starting off playing DFS or really starting off at Yahoo. Game the system, if you please. And you can get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points simply by signing up with us at awesomeo.com. Very simple way to do this. Very easy, as a matter of fact. Go to awesomeo.com, click on the NBA tab and articles. You'll see the Cash Building Blocks article. It's free. It's by our boy EMAC for today. You click on that, and you will see the link all the way at the bottom of the article for Yahoo. Click that. Use the sign-up code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, and get up to $30 in YSRPs. When you deposit, they're as good as cash, used on the site to win and play and win real money. Right? There's no reason you shouldn't get your YSRPs at Yahoo. It's like you're leaving money on the table for somebody else to take. So sign up through us. Use the Cash Building Blocks article. It's free. Click the link. Use the sign-up code AWESEMO and get your $30 in YSRPs. Become a baller today. All right, Adam. 11 games. Same question as always. What are we thinking? Any initial thoughts for this slate?
I think the mid-range on this slate's really, really strong, and the guys that you would pay up for aren't there's nothing wrong with them, but they're not feeling like total necessities for me. I don't think there's a lot of really good cheap value. It's more that the value as far as underpriced guys go is in the mid-range. So I think at least right now the lineups I'm building are a little bit more balanced than usual.
Okay. Fair enough. So would you say just seems unnecessary to go stars and scrubs today right now with what we have?
Yeah, I don't know if I would say unnecessary because obviously you still get a ton of upside if you're getting to guys like Harden or LeBron or whatever. But I think that you can still make some really high ceiling lineups without doing that. So I would say, like more of a luxury at least.
Okay. Let's dive into it. And by the way, stick around after this show. Live Before Locks coming up next. You got Eddie and you got Josh taking you to lock. Toronto, LA Clippers at home in Toronto. You should be getting mostly everyone that matters back for the Clippers. JaMychal Green's doubtful to play. It doesn't really even matter all that much. He probably would have played like 22 minutes or so. But the big thing here is, number one, how wildly underwhelming most of these Clippers players were last time out against Washington. But I guess that's water under the bridge, Adam. Not all of them. Just Lou Williams was pretty bad. Outside of that, Harrell was fine. Paul George ended up having a huge game, as he should have. But now you've got Kawhi Leonard back in the mix. Paul George's price tag has come up. Leonard's has come down. And then on the Toronto side of the ball, we're still waiting on Fred VanVleet. Pretty big news there. Our boy, I don't know about you. Maybe I won't speak for you. I had Terrence Davis projected to play like 24 minutes last game. I know Josh had him around there too. He played 12 minutes, and Nick Nurse doing what he does best, just running super short benches and running out his starters for monster minutes. So even if VanVleet doesn't play, it's unlikely that we see a massive advantage go to anybody. Just Siakam played 39, Lowry played 39, Anunoby played 37, and the bench played like very sparingly throughout.
Yeah, it was like you said, it was just a typical Nick Nurse rotation. I was with you. I had Davis projected for like twice as many minutes as he played as well. But yeah, it was the starters just playing huge minutes. So I would expect more of the same if Van Vliet is out. But really, the only changes that Van Vliet I think affects are if he's out, you get it's more appealing for Lowry because you get a little bit more usage. You get a higher assist percentage because obviously all of his minutes are without Van Vliet. And then you get more minutes for Norman Powell, who played about 29 minutes against the Bulls. If Van Vliet's in, I have Powell projected for 20 minutes. So I think those are the two biggest changes if Van Vliet's in or out.
So what do you do with them if Van Vliet ends up being out? Do you have any priorities for Toronto? It is an 11-game slate, and there are a lot of games that are really favorable.
I think Lowry would be a priority, but he's a really strong option for me anyway at only 7,100 on DraftKings, just playing monster minutes with or without Van Vliet. So I don't think that my priorities really change because if I give Norman Powell the extra, 8 to 10 minutes, it's still not making him a priority for me since the salaries come up. I think that OG is reasonable with or without Van Vliet. I think that Siakam is a decent option with or without Van Vliet. And like I said, even with Van Vliet projected in, I have Lowry as the best play from the Raptors. So he really doesn't change a whole lot for me.
What about the opposite side of this game? Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, both active today. Is this a Clippers team that has any price points favorable enough for you to get onto them?
I think that Kawhi's salary on DraftKings is really nice. He's still only $8,700, and you're seeing the Clippers in general, but him specifically, I think, priced down because they've played so many non-competitive games since George and Kawhi returned to the lineup. But only 2-point favorites here at Toronto. No real reason to certainly shouldn't be projecting this to blow out. And so I think 32 to 33 minutes for Kawhi is a very reasonable projection. He's been very good, even with George back, has a 32.9% usage rate, almost a 25% assist percentage. It's a tough matchup. Toronto is a very good defensive team. They don't play at a really fast pace. But I think that Kawhi is still very reasonably priced.
Okay. So top plays from this game, let's say, assuming Van Vliet does not play.
Kawhi from the Clipper side, Lowry from the Toronto side.
And I want to make sure, because we have 11 games, would you consider Kawhi a priority?
I don't think so because he's just so much more expensive than like Chris Middleton, for example. But I do expect to get to quite a bit more Kawhi than anyone else on the Clippers.
Yeah. And also, how many minutes are you giving Kawhi and Paul George now that they're both playing? I have them both around 33, I think.
Yeah, I have Kawhi at 32 and George at 33.
Okay. Yeah. It's that should be enough to get to some of them, particularly Kawhi Leonard. Let's talk about the Pacers and the Boston Celtics. Marcus Smart has recently been ruled out, so he's not going to be active. It shouldn't make a big difference here. Gordon Hayward made his return last time out, was minimum salary on DraftKings. You could still argue that he's underpriced at 5,700. Wasn't on a minutes restriction. That game blew out because anyone facing Cleveland blows them out. And now you've got an Indiana team in Indiana that I would expect this to be a pretty competitive game. The Pacers are 1-point dogs here. Low scoring affair, as it should be expected. But I don't know. If Hayward played 33 minutes today, it wouldn't shock me. Now, that's not to say you're going to put him up there as a priority option, but I definitely think that he gets up above 30 minutes again. All the starters play significant minutes. But I also want to ask you a little bit about Daniel Theis with Robert Williams out. Does Theis end up to playing 26 minutes and Cantor plays 22? What are you seeing here with this rotation with Williams out from the bench, had been getting, 10, 12 minutes a game, and Marcus Smart remaining out in the starting lineup with Gordon Hayward in his second game back? A lot of moving parts. Yeah,
I think it's kind of just a dumpster fire amongst the bench guys here. You saw in the last game that Vincent Poirier played 6 minutes. You got about 18 for Cantor. So I have Theis at 24. I have Cantor at 18. I have Semi picking up some additional minutes at the 5 to round it out. But then also, kind of filling in Smart's minutes. Obviously, you got Hayward back, but then you got like a stint for Javonte Green. You got a little bit of run for Carson Edwards. You got a little bit for Grant Williams. There was no one guy that soaked up minutes, and I I guess I expect that to be the case again, but even if it isn't, I wouldn't even know who to guess gets like 18 minutes or whatever. But either way, I don't think it would really matter. To answer your question, I still have Theis at 24 minutes. So he's a reasonable value option, but not someone that I expect to get a lot of.
Okay. Yeah. I guess the question is, who else are you going to run at the 5? I know we've seen him go small there before, so that's understandable with like a Grant Williams or something. But here's my thing, man. Against this front court, against the Miles Turner, Domantas Sabonis front court, I don't think you're going to see any of that today. So my assumption is that the center minutes are split. I'm not saying 50-50, but that Kanter and Theis take up all of the center minutes. Maybe it will be Poirier. Maybe you're right. That's possible. Maybe he plays like 5.
Yeah, I mean, like last game, Williams didn't play. And in the first half, Theis and Kanter did split all the minutes. In the second half, Poirier picked up about 5 minutes.
Yeah, and you're right. The only difference for that one was it was a blowout. So if it's competitive, I think it's very possible that we end up seeing them split these minutes again. But that's yet to be seen. I think they were up by 29 points when Poirier came into the game. So do you think maybe that has something to do with it? I don't know. But
yeah, it could have. The thing that's weird to me is that Kanter came in after that, though.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Well, Kanter's a bench guy too.
Yeah, but it was like Poirier played the beginning of Kanter's run. Basically, it was just really weird.
Right. No, that makes sense. Yeah, and Theis never returned. So
right. Yeah, and I mean, I think you're right. Like you could get more minutes from Theis. I'm just not really. I'm never really that confident in Brad Stevens' rotations.
No, neither am I. I guess what I'm saying is when I break this down and try and figure out like blowout run, I don't just take the first half rotation. Neither do you. But Theis played 7 or 14 and a half minutes and then 7 minutes to start the third quarter, but never returned in the fourth. Like, do we assume that he closes out a close game? Because if he does, you probably get around 26 minutes from him.
Yeah, I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I think that you're right, that had that game been more competitive, you would have seen more from Theis. So if you wanted to go like 28-20 or something like that between him and Kanter, I think that's actually pretty reasonable.
Yeah, and I'm not saying he's an automatic play by any stretch, but could he be an interesting value? I do think that could be the case, especially against the big Indiana front court. What are you doing with the rest of Boston? Any starters that intrigue you?
Hayward's the most interesting to me. I think he's still relatively inexpensive at 5,700 on DraftKings. I have him in for 30 minutes. He played about 27 in the blowout last game. They had said he wasn't on a minutes restriction. I don't really know. We didn't get to see how true that was, right. But I gave him 30 minutes. Like you said before, if he got up to 32 or 33, I don't think it would be shocking. He's obviously been good this season, but overall, it's just not really an appealing spot. You have two below average teams in pace. Over the last month, Boston's played at the 25th fastest pace. Indiana ranks 18th. You have two good defensive teams. Indiana 7th in defensive rating over the last month. So it's just on an 11-game slate where there are a lot of fast-paced games, a lot of really bad defensive teams playing. I have trouble prioritizing anything.
So do I. I'll tell you this much, though. Pretty confident that there was legitimately no minutes restriction. Here's why. He played all 12 minutes in the third quarter.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
So, yeah, if you're playing all of those minutes, they're not worried about you getting your stamina back. I can assure you of that. Embiid would play 3 minutes and then sit 3 and then play 3 again if he was coming back from a hand injury. Anything for Indiana that interests you?
Not really. Sabonis is the guy that looks the best to me, but I would rather just even in that price range, I would rather get to Kawhi Leonard. It's a decent matchup against this front court for Sabonis. He's just a really productive player, regardless of who he's on the floor with. Even since the starting lineup got back to full strength, he's still been very productive. He since Brogdon's return, since all those guys came back, he leads the team with about 35 minutes per game. So the minutes are nice. The production's nice. You still, in their most recent game, still had Goga not playing. So you're getting backup center minutes for Sabonis. So he's the one that stands out the most to me from the Pacers and really from this game. But in terms of the entire slate, it's still just a secondary option.
By the way, I'm dreading talking about this Golden State Knicks game.
It's going to be awful.
It's going to be awful. I mean, I just hate the Knicks, Adam.
Yeah, I hate them more after last night.
Just unbelievable. Orlando and the Lakers. I'd say this is a wildly unappealing game on all fronts, but I'll let you be the judge of that. 212 total. Lakers are 8.5-point favorites on the road. Markelle Fultz is a game time decision. Rajon Rondo remains questionable here. Alex Caruso, they say he looks like someone we know.
Just a little bit.
Just a tad. He's getting, I saw there's a YouTube video that's like why Caruso is so good. I still have to get around to watching that, but he's played pretty significant minutes. I'm not giving him 30 today, but I'm putting them around 24 or 25, I think, which I guess is significant. But is there anything from this game that you feel good about?
Not really. I mean, obviously you feel fine about guys like LeBron James and Anthony Davis, but when you start comparing them,
of the slate, I mean,
right, exactly. They're guys that I might get to some, but kind of like I mentioned at the top of the show, I'm happy with any Davis or LeBron I get to, but I think that there's going to be a lot of lineups where if I were to say, okay, what if I swap off of LeBron and improve one of my like value plays, I think I'm going to get kind of higher ceilings that way. So neither guy is a priority for me, just because I do think this is another game that isn't that appealing. Two slower teams, two quality defensive teams, only a 213 total. The Lakers are 9-point favorites on the road. So those two look like the two best options for me from the Lakers. Kuzma's out. But I don't think that changes a whole lot. I actually was hoping that I'd be able to convince myself to give more minutes to Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee with Kuzma being out. But when I went back and looked at the games from the beginning of the season, they were still playing like 18, 19 minutes for McGee and like 22 minutes for Howard. So still gave Davis some minutes at the 5 and not really getting to anything else.
So who's going to soak those minutes up? Are you going to get some from like like 5 or 6 from, or maybe even 10 or 12 from Dudley? I mean,
I have Dudley at 8. I have Dudley at 8. I have Troy Daniels at 8. I projected Rondo not to play. If he plays, then obviously that's just another body. But with Avery Bradley being back, that's 20 minutes that are accounted for now. Whereas if Kuzma and Bradley and Rondo were out, it would start to mean that you needed to give a bunch of minutes to someone like KCP or Caruso or potentially the centers. But Bradley eating up 20 minutes makes it so that you don't really have to. Like, you just kind of had to give 8 to Dudley, 12 to Cook. I have 24 for Caruso. So yeah, it kind of more or less, even though they're different positions, but more or less minutes wise, I think kind of replacing Kuzma with Bradley.
Okay. Yeah, doing the exact same thing, and I feel okay about that. But you still have 24 for Caruso as well, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, me too. That I can't imagine I end up on a lot of them with some of the value that we have today. Anything else from Orlando or the Lakers?
Obviously, pay attention to the Markelle Fultz news. It doesn't seem like huge news on this slate because it's Markelle Fultz, and we don't have a lot of interest in Orlando. But if he were to sit, you would get more minutes for pretty cheap DJ Augustine.
Yeah, what is he priced at? He's
4,800 on DraftKings, and on FanDuel he is.
So he's not super cheap.
No, he's $5K on FanDuel.
Yeah, so I don't know. Get in a tough spot. I don't know how much I'd get to, but it would definitely free up his minutes a lot. Surprised he's that expensive, honestly. Cleveland and Houston. This Cleveland team is an 11.5-point dog at home. And I don't know, that might be light. Like they're really bad. Let me ask you this serious question. Cleveland plays the New York Knicks, neutral venue, right? Neutral location. What do you set the line at? And what do you set the over under at?
Knicks by like 5.
Pick them. See,
the Knicks have more talent. I
know, but I have very serious recency bias from last night. Cleveland by 8.
The real question would be how many players play, like a total of like 25 or something.
Oh yeah, just brutal. But I mean, could you project any team for over like 103 points? These teams, you obviously can, but these are bad basketball teams.
Yeah, like, bad offense, bad defense, just
they're terrible. Just abysmal. And here's the thing. I wanted to set it up with this because you're going to hear a lot of conversation about Cleveland Cavaliers players today with some of the price points. It's like DraftKings is kind of goading you into it. What I mean by that, Chetty Osman is $3,300. And in close games, he's playing 30 plus minutes. He's just been god awful. And they've been blown out so badly in almost every game they've played recently that his minutes have been down. But if it's close, oh, there you go. You got your 30 plus minutes. Kevin Love's the first guy off the court in a blowout. And should he play 30? If it's close, sure. But like at this rate, and I hate projecting blowouts, but at this rate, how are you projecting them? What I'm personally doing is I've seen him projected for 30, 31, 32 everywhere. I'm giving him 28 just to be a little bit more careful. I'm still going to get some, but it's not going to overload it either.
The most minutes I have projected for anyone on Cleveland is 31 to Tristan Thompson. And the reason, it's not that I'm projecting this particular game to blow out, but to me, there's a difference between projecting a blowout in one specific game and looking back over the last month of, 12, 13, 15 games.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're averaging 30 minutes a game.
Right.
So it's totally different to me. It's not, I advise against looking at a game and saying, I don't know how this one stays close, so I'm going to cut everyone's minutes. But it's a real thing when, for like half the season now, these guys are averaging 30 minutes a game, in part because they just are never in competitive games.
Right. Exactly. Kevin Love's averaging 30, but God, I guess if you went back, he has a couple games where he's playing like 39, 37, but his last three, 27, 20, 22, 31, 24, 25, 33, 25. He has more games below 30 than above 30.
Yeah. Over the last month, he's averaged 28 minutes per game.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm giving him tonight. If it's close, I'm wrong. Fine. But it's just really difficult with what they've been playing to give them 30 plus, even though that's what they would get in a competitive game. What are you giving Osman? I'm assuming 30.
Yeah. I have him at 30 minutes.
Yeah. I put him at 29. I guess did you crunch any lineups yet?
Just kind of my top 20 or whatever. I
haven't. Did you get any Chetty?
Yeah, he's in my optimal lineup. I'm on DraftKings, and I'm really not happy about it. But at the same time, he's
3,300.
Right. He's like the kind of guy where, and I mean, I guess you also could just go to Ursa now. He's $100 more, but I don't mind making that kind of play like in cash and just getting, because it's really hard for him to fail at that price point. But assuming he's going to get some ownership in tournaments, it's the kind of guy where I would rather take some chances on better per minute players.
Yes, sir. DJ Augustine starting in place of Markelle Fultz, who has just been ruled out. So there you go.
Cool.
At least we got that news. What are you doing with Cleveland? You talked about Chetty Osman, but what about Love and anybody else here against a Houston team that's played much better defense lately? They do play at one of the fastest paces in basketball, but the Cavs are double-digit favorites at home.
Double-digit dogs, yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are some secondary options here for him. We talked about Chetty, obviously. Kevin Love is really cheap. So is Thompson. So is Colin Sexton. But they're still not priorities for me just because I can't project them for a ton of minutes. Outside of Chetty, it's not like they're dirt cheap. It's just that they're priced down. It is a pace-up spot, like you said. If this game is close down to the wire, then they probably do exceed their salaries, guys like Love and Sexton, but I think just kind of secondary plays for me.
Okay. Just reading a couple of these comments here. These dudes can crunch all their lineup, crunch all their numbers, act like they know it all, but if you are new to this, the only difference between the big dogs and everyone else is their ability to play 150 lineups. I don't know, dude. I've had plenty of 150 lineup nights where I do awful. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot more to it than that. I mean,
if you're bad with less than 150 lineups, all you do is lose your money faster with 150.
Yeah, and you can be good without 150 and then be terrible with 150 too.
Yeah, it's kind of different games.
It took a lot of catching up for me, man. Once the game changed, but yeah, when you see those guys up there, like every night, even though they have 150, do you know how hard that is to do?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
yes, I do know how hard it is to do.
I know. It's tough, man. What about Houston? You mentioned earlier, you're not saying that it's not unnecessary to go with James Harden and really, well, you said stars and scrubs, but Harden's 12-9 he's everywhere. He is astronomically priced. Like, do you get to him today?
Probably not too much. I have him as the highest scorer on the slate by a wide margin, but even though like I have him at like 65, 66 points, DraftKings points, but I have so many guys that are like 20 to 30% less expensive than him that I have projected over 50 that in a lot of lineups, I'm going to end up just prioritizing getting one extra of those guys in. So I think that unless we get really low ownership on him or we get, more value opening up between now and lock, I don't anticipate getting to a ton of Harden.
Daryl Haskins. Hey, Adam, what the hell? The Knicks screwed us last night. Listen, Adam was not happy about the Knicks. I can assure you of that. We were losing our shit at like 11:30 because we both had a ton of player minutes remaining. You look at your lineups, you're like, oh, okay, not going to be a great night, but should be okay. We were literally losing money with 4 guys in the lineup. Like, I don't know if I've ever had that happen where I'm dropping money and I've got like 4 guys that have 3 quarters left to play.
Yeah, it was a pretty disappointing one.
Yeah, to say the least. Anyway, that's what happens. We'll get to that game and we'll kind of give you some further thoughts. But let's talk about the rest of Houston and then we'll move on. Austin Rivers is out. I have D'Antoni running in a very compressed rotation, similar to last one. Give me 33 or so for McLemore, 33 or 34 for House. Monster minutes for Harden again. PJ Tucker up around 36, 37. Westbrook around 36. Capella 35, 36. This is assuming it's close, but you get my point. I don't. Maybe a couple minutes for Clemens. Outside of that, I just don't really. And Gary Clark gets probably 20, 22. I think it'll be very similar to last time, assuming this game is somewhat close.
Yep. Sounds like we're on the same page. I think that, obviously Harden's a great option if you can afford it, but you can also, you get a nice discount going to Westbrook, who you run the risk of him, disappearing in some games because Capella takes rebounds from him and he's the second option offensively, but still should play 35, 36 minutes. And for the season's average 1.4 points per minute, obviously can just go off in the spot and contribute a ton. And then Capella, 3 straight disappointing games now. 2 of them, his minutes were down. He played 32 and 27 minutes, came back and played about 37 minutes last game against the Kings. Over the last month, he's averaged 35 and a half minutes. It's not a great spot for him in particular because Cleveland actually has done a decent job of limiting rebounds this year, in part because they play at a slow pace and in part because Tristan Thompson is actually decent. But still, if you're going to get 35, 36 minutes from a mid-range center in a for a team that has a 120 team total, I still have interest in Capella. So I think it's varying levels of interest in the 3 main guys, and then I think that Daniel House is a reasonable value option just because he should play 33, 34 minutes in an appealing spot.
Okay. Yeah. The one advantage is that these guys are all going to play a lot of minutes, and it's the Cleveland Cavaliers. But Rivers being out, it's not going to affect most of them. But I think with guys like McLemore and House, they'll soak up most of that, and Gary Clark will get his run off the bench. But most of all, it's a pretty unappealing game. There is some value in Cleveland, but I'm a little bit leery about that, just given what we've seen from them over the past month, or really the most of the season altogether. Let's talk about Brooklyn and Charlotte then. Moving on. Kind of an appealing game here. The Brooklyn Nets are 10-point favorites, though. Charlotte playing their second of a back-to-back. Spencer Dinwiddie's just been really good with Kyrie Irving off, and Irving remains out again today. Dinwiddie not giving you monster games each night, but he's been pretty damn consistent. So is Taurean Prince. His price is coming up, though. You're going to pay an exorbitant price on Taurean Prince today. And then Jared Allen, who when he gets the minutes is spectacular. He's getting good run, but you still have DeAndre Jordan creeping behind him. I don't know, man. The Brooklyn team, there's a lot of pretty good fantasy options, but how much are you willing to pay for them is the big question.
Yeah, I think that this game is a pretty appealing one as far as just, there should be a lot of fantasy points scored. I think Jared Allen stands out to me. I have him projected at 28 minutes. He generally ranges from mid 20s to like 30. You have Jordan behind him, like you said, but Charlotte's been really, really bad protecting the paint this year. They give up a lot of offensive rebounds. Allen's one of the best offensive rebounds in basketball this year. So I do think that he's a pretty strong option, reasonably priced. Dinwiddie, I think, is a good option. He obviously is still playing without Kyrie. He's averaging about 33 minutes per game since Kyrie's injury, has about a 31% usage rate, almost a 35% assist percentage. He's averaged about 1.2 DraftKings points per minute. So him and Allen, I think, are the two most interesting guys from Brooklyn.
Okay. What about Charlotte? The big thing here, I want to set this up for you a little bit, is Nicholas Batum not going to play. Malik Monk is expected to play. Marvin Williams also out. So last night we saw a pretty wild rotation, and well, not wild, just super compressed again. Bridges, huge minute. Washington, huge minutes. Cody Zeller and Bismack Biyombo both played 22 plus minutes in this game. I think a few extra center minutes might have gone to PJ Washington, but Rozier, huge minutes. Devontae Graham had a monster second half, also played huge minutes. And you saw where all the run was coming from in this game. If that's the same again today, then you're going to see 5 guys play 35 plus minutes.
Yeah, I think that like obviously Batum and Williams don't matter for DFS, but them being out does make me a little bit more confident in the rotation here. You and I talked a lot about it yesterday, how the potential is there for any of these guys to play huge minutes, but that the rotation's been kind of all over the place for everyone that isn't Graham or Rozier. Right. And so you can't be that confident. But with Batum out, with Williams out, for James Borrego to take minutes away from guys like PJ Washington or Miles Bridges, it means playing more of like Cody Martin or playing more of Dwayne Bacon, which is something that he hasn't been particularly interested in doing. He tried with Bacon, and Bacon basically played himself right to the bench. But it helps to solidify those minutes. It's different when you have Batum as someone that is capable of playing well and stealing some minutes from Bridges, or you have Williams who can steal some minutes from Washington. So I have this projected to be a really tight rotation again tonight. I have 36 minutes apiece for Graham, Rozier, Washington, and Bridges. It doesn't make any of them priorities for me, but it does make all of them, guys that I can use as contrarian options in my tournament lineups. And then at center, I think it's interesting because we had seen in prior games, Biyombo playing 17, 18 minutes, and we had seen Zeller playing around 20 with Washington picking up more. But that was with Marvin Williams in. So you saw, I think it was 46 minutes went to Zeller plus Biyombo last night. Yeah. Now you get a Brooklyn team that is going to give 48 minutes to Jared Allen plus DeAndre Jordan. So I have Biyombo at another 24 minutes. I have Zeller at another 22. I don't really see any reason to think that it's much different tonight than it was last night based on who they're playing against and who they're playing without.
That's exactly where I'm at. It's a little bit concerning, but the minutes should be there. Now, similar to what I asked you about Brooklyn, are you cool with Washington and Bridges? And the reason I ask isn't because of yesterday. Yesterday was a 4-game slate. It's a lot different. Now we have 11 games. So are you willing to pay these prices for these guys, assuming they get, the reason I say 35 plus is because with Borrego, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, they're all playing 38 minutes. Wild shit has happened with this rotation, but are they priced reasonably enough for you?
Much less interested in them today than I was yesterday. Obviously it's a bigger slate. They're also not playing the Wizards. So whereas yesterday I had 75% Miles Bridges at 5,100. Today he's just, kind of a secondary option for me. The Nets just nowhere near, as bad defensively or as fast as the Wizards. Charlotte only a 104 total today. I think they were at 114 or 115 yesterday. So very different matchup, I think, for the Hornets. So it makes me less interested than I was yesterday.
Okay. Anything else from this one?
No.
Let's talk about Minnesota, Utah. Someone's always questionable from this Minnesota team. It's starting to get on my nerves, Adam, but Jeff Teague, now he's not questionable. He's a game time decision. That makes it even worse. But they're 1.5 Jazz 1.5 point favorites here, 222.5 total in Minnesota. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that Teague plays, but I don't know if he will. Do you know if he went through shoot around?
I'm not sure. I do know he's been questionable for the last 2 games, and he's played in both of them.
That's what I'm saying, but now he's a game time decision. I don't know if that's any different.
They said the same thing in those games.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, he's questionable, and then like the new report comes out, and it's like he's a game time decision, and then they say he's available to play.
All right, so we'll assume he's in. I'll give him 28 minutes, and we'll move on from there. What are you thinking on Minnesota against the Jazz?
I think it's a sneaky good spot for Minnesota. Utah, and I mean, I was guilty of it actually in our deep dive article today. I didn't mention Andrew Wiggins because I just kind of overlooked him because it was just like, yeah, whatever, he's facing Utah. But over the last month, Utah ranks 9th in pace. They're 17th in defensive rating. They've not been that good. And most importantly, they're playing reasonably fast. So you have pretty appealing pricing on Minnesota. Karl Anthony Towns comes in at $10K, which is a bump up from where he was against the Suns at 9,300 the other day, but still a very affordable salary for him. It's not a matchup that I'm particularly concerned with. He's not dependent on scoring at the basket, so Gobert's rim protection doesn't scare me too much. He can just pull him away from the rim. He's had plenty of success against Gobert in the past. They faced 9 times since the start of the 2017 season. Towns has averaged about 1.45 DraftKings points per minute, has 3 games over 60 points. This year, they've played twice. 1 game was disappointing. 1 was over 60. He's averaged about 1.48 points per minute in those 2. So not really concerned about the individual matchup for Towns. I do think that his FanDuel price is less appealing than his DraftKings price, but it's a perfectly fine spot for him. I mentioned Wiggins, who has averaged about 1.14 DraftKings points per minute over the last month. He leads the team in minutes played. I have him projected for 35 here. And while I kind of earlier just wrote him off, I'm actually really interested in him because he's cheap. He's only $7K on DraftKings. He's 7,700 on FanDuel, 30.5% usage rate over the last month, 17.5% assist percentage, basically playing point guard now with Teague coming off the bench. So I think Wiggins is a really good option that maybe goes a little bit overlooked just because it's Utah.
All right. Do you have interest in the Utah Jazz going up against Minnesota?
Yeah, I think that Gobert is a pretty good option. Pace up, or I guess not even really a pace up spot anymore, just two teams that are in the top 10 in pace over the last month in Utah and Minnesota. Minnesota, not a great team defensively. Gobert is still affordably priced, and you would expect him to be on the floor for as many minutes as Karl Anthony Towns is pretty much. So I think he's fine. I think that Donovan Mitchell is in a nice spot. He's struggled since Conley's injury, but this is a spot where I would want to roster him even if Conley were healthy. And without Conley on the floor, Mitchell does have a 33.3% usage rate this year. It's 31.1% alongside Conley. So even if you lose some efficiency, it does increase his ceiling. I would expect 35 to 36 minutes from him. So Mitchell is a core play for me tonight.
All right. Yeah, I mean, when you're getting him at this price, you kind of just have to continue running him out there. Pretty high total too. I'm all right with Donovan Mitchell. You're going to get 35 minutes from him or more, which I feel pretty good about. And the last 2 games they've played, actually, I believe 3 since Conley's been out. Is it 3? I think it's 3. All of them have been in some fashion games that got out of control towards the end. And Mitchell still played 33, 33, and 35. So assuming this is close, 37 minutes is certainly not unattainable for Donnie Mitchell. Anything else for Utah that intrigues you?
I think that if you're playing 150 lineups, you can take a shot on a $3,700 Moutier. He's played like 21 or 22 minutes in the last 2 games after essentially not playing the first game Conley was out. That's the kind of guy where if he were getting ownership, I wouldn't be interested, but we haven't projected for 1% ownership on draft or less than 1% ownership. That's the kind of guy where if everyone's going to go to like a Chetty Osman at 3,300, I think Chetty plays more minutes, but I don't think the range of outcomes is very different.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that. Let's talk about the next game on our list. We've got 5 to go. Before we do, I want to let you know that Deeper Dive, all one word, is the promo code to get half off, 50% off your first month at Awesemo Plus, Awesemo.com, Awesemo Plus Platinum subscription. That's ownership projections, player projections, the boom bust tool, top stack tool, all of our premium articles, the lineup builder. There's the Fantasy Cruncher add-on that you can get as well. There's so much more that we don't have time to talk about. But if you go to Awesemo.com/join, what happens is you'll be able to scroll to the bottom and see videos on all of our best and most popular tools. So you know exactly what you're getting before you dive in. And if you click begin membership on awesemo.com/join, you'll be asked a question. And that question would be, what type of player are you? Serious, casual, professional? The idea is to give you exactly what you're looking for, not too much, not too little, with your subscription. So so catering it to you. That was Alex Baker, Awesemo's idea when he started this site, and that's the plan we've tried to put into place. So go to awesemo.com/join, and all the tools, by the way, developed by Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, #1 ranked DFS player in the world. So it's worth checking out for sure. Deeper Dive, all one word, will get you 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus membership. Yeah. Chicago, Atlanta. So Atlanta, second of a back-to-back. The reason with teams like this, teams that aren't the Knicks and Cavs, no, but really the reason that projecting blowouts can get you into trouble is exactly what we saw last night between Miami and Atlanta. And you made a point to me because I was tilting, right? Like if I'm pissed off, I'll get super irrational with Adam, and like you know it, I'm being irrational, and I know I'm being irrational, but it's the only way to calm myself down. Where I'm like, yeah, now I'm just gonna remove the Knicks from my player pool forever. and you're like, yeah, well, if we were counting on blowouts, then we wouldn't have played anyone from the Atlanta-Miami game. And of course, I'm not serious like I would actually remove them, but you get pissed off. And then you see that on the same day, Atlanta's not as bad as the Knicks, but you see on the same day, Adam, that they just took a good Miami Heat team to overtime. They got shit on in overtime period, somehow lost by 17 points. But you get what I'm saying here.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a game, if I remember correctly, it was in Miami. So
it was in Miami.
Yeah, it was definitely one where.
What was it, a year ago, dude? It was 18 hours ago, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember. I put that slate out of my head as quickly as I could.
Yeah, I hear that.
But yeah, I mean, it's a game where when we talked about it, it was like, yeah, that game absolutely could blow out, but what are you going to do? And I think this is a pretty appealing game again for Atlanta.
For sure. Hey, by the way, I forgot to mention Fred VanVleet is out. So
yeah,
you've got that. All right. You want to talk Chicago, Atlanta? Let's do it. So Trae Young and company played monster minutes yesterday. Take that for what it's worth. Like I thought Washington against Miami the other day was going to get smoked. Playing their second of a back-to-back, coming off a huge win at home against Philly, flying to Miami, hitting up a titty bar or two, and then having to play basketball that night. Competitive game. Like you really don't know sometimes, man, unless it's the Knicks. But these guys did play a ton of minutes. So I do want to point that out. I don't know what that really means. I don't know if Kevin Huerter is going to be limited to less than 25 minutes. I don't think he will be, but here you have it. Let's actually start with the Hawks side of the ball. Tell me what you're getting out here, what you're seeing on this second of a back-to-back on the road. I'm less interested in the Hawks side than the Chicago side. I think that Trae Young's salary on FanDuel is still reasonable. On DraftKings, it's just really tough for me to get there at over a 10K salary when you have so many underpriced guys. Chicago's defensively really hasn't been bad. Over the last month, they are 12th in pace, but they are 8th in defensive rating. They've been a good team defending pick and roll all season long as well. So take that for what it's worth. It's not, the best matchup. When Young's knocking down his shots, obviously he's basically indefensible, but it's really tough for me to get to him on DraftKings. I think more appealing on FanDuel. Kevin Huerter, playing backup point guard like you mentioned yesterday, but still limited to about 25 minutes. He's not someone I'm getting to a lot of. DeAndre Hunter is a value option. I think is reasonable. Had a huge game yesterday, but the big thing was that he was back in the starting lineup. He played like 35 minutes in regulation, so I have him at 34 minutes. A $4,300 DraftKings salary is perfectly fine. I think Jabari Parker is a decent option as well. The minutes are concerning for Parker. He's been averaging about 29, 30 minutes per game over the last month, but he is reasonably productive. It is an okay spot in terms of pace at least. So I think Parker and Hunter are the guys I'll get to the most of on DraftKings from Atlanta, but I don't expect either one to be particularly highly owned by me. It's crazy. Hunter on occasion has these ceiling games and always ends up in the tournament winning lineup, and you're like, wish I was there. He played 40 minutes yesterday, shot 11 for 17. he has a pretty big range of outcomes, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he's earlier this year I referred to him as the worst offensive player in the history of the sport.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to think anymore, man. It's crazy. He'll have 5 fantasy points and then 45.
It goes back to the most important things are minutes and salary, and so
absolutely.
It's not quite like football where like Manny says with just play good players. It's right. A little bit different in basketball.
No, you're absolutely right, man. You are absolutely right. Do you want to touch on anything else with Atlanta, or should we move to Chicago?
We can go to the Chicago side.
All right. So the Satoransky went ahead and played huge minutes last game after Kobe White stole a bunch from the game before. Jakar Sampson's out for whatever that's worth. Not really anything. Kobe White last game ended up playing 30. So he played back-to-back games with 30 minutes. But I think Dunn was in foul trouble. I'm almost
Dunn was in foul trouble and Carter was in foul trouble.
Right. Okay. So 2 guys in foul trouble. I'm not putting White at 30 minutes today. Could he get close to it? Sure. But he definitely benefited from Dunn being on the bench.
Yeah, I gave him 26 minutes. The thing that I did like to see was that he was kind of playing alongside everyone. Like he played minutes alongside Satoransky. He played minutes alongside Dunn. He played minutes alongside Levine. So it was at least nice to see Boylen not locking him into one specific backup role, which has really hurt him this year. I don't know if that changes when nobody's in foul trouble or not, but you would think that getting this guy more minutes would be some sort of a priority. Marcidiakono still wasn't in the rotations. That was good to see for White. And he's still really cheap. So in a matchup against a really bad Atlanta team defensively that plays fast, I still like the idea of going to Kobe White and just hoping you get one of those games where he sees a little bit extra run and knocks down some shots.
Okay. What about the rest of Chicago?
I like all of them. Levine really stands out to me. He's only 7,600 on DraftKings, should play 34, 35 minutes over the last month, almost a 32% usage rate. As I mentioned before, Atlanta is really bad defensively. They've been the second least efficient defense ahead of only the Wizards over the last month. And, Levine's playing big minutes. He's going to get his shots, has an assist percentage up over 22% as well. So he really stands out in any format for me. But then Satoransky, played big minutes. Like you said, he's a pretty decent, per minute player. It's just a matter of if he's losing minutes. Earlier in the year, it was to Dunn. Now, potentially it's to Kobe White. We'll have to see. But on DraftKings, it's actually kind of easy to get him in lineups too, because he's guard and forward eligible. I think it's a really good spot for Wendell Carter. Atlanta's allowed the second most offensive rebounds per game this year. Carter is 7th in the NBA in offensive rebounds per game. You obviously run the risk of him getting in foul trouble, but Boylen's been giving him a ton of minutes. Over the last month, he's averaged 32 minutes per game, and that obviously includes games like the last one where he is in foul trouble. He's done a better job of not fouling as well. So I have him at 33 minutes here. I think that between him and Jared Allen, I would lean towards Allen, but I think that they're both pretty decent options.
Okay. Anything else, or should we talk? You know what? I think you hit on everything. Let's talk about Phoenix and Memphis. Aaron Baines back for the second game here. I don't know if he's going to be limited or not. He played 15 minutes in his return. You could see him get some more run here. Frank Kaminsky played 10 minutes in that game, so that's cool. And then Chick Diallo played, I think, 4. So they had I'm assuming we saw a lot of, was it just a lot of Saric minutes at the 5?
Yeah, Saric at the 5. Bridges played 32 minutes. Kaminsky was in massive foul trouble.
Yeah, he finished with 4, but he never came back out after the big foul trouble early on. What are you thinking on Phoenix today? Anything that stands out as a great option, knowing that we do have 11 games and Memphis is still a pretty bad basketball team though? Yeah,
I wouldn't say great in terms of like, I'm not getting anyone from Phoenix in my cash lineup right now, but I do think that there's several guys that you can go to in tournaments and feel reasonably good about. Rubio, playing 33, 34 minutes. He's still affordably priced. Devin Booker is more expensive than I would like for Rubio being healthy, but Memphis is a pretty bad defensive team and they play at a reasonably fast pace. So still an okay spot there. Kelly Oubre is playing monster minutes because he is essentially now Devin Booker's backup and then playing a bunch of minutes alongside Booker as well. So you're still seeing, we saw 2 games in a row where he was at 40 minutes. Last game, I think he played 34 or 35. One wild card, though, for me is Kaminsky, because his DraftKings salary has dropped all the way to $4,300. He's been cheap on FanDuel basically this entire time, but on DraftKings, he had gotten up to almost $6K. After that last game, obviously people are going to just shy away because he played 9 minutes. They said Baines was going to be limited in that game. They very clearly limited him. He played like 15 minutes. So I have him at 20 minutes here, but it's still really tough for me to think that the game plan would be to like play Baines 20 minutes and not play Kaminsky at least 24 if he's able to stay out of foul trouble. Yeah. So I think that it's not someone that I'm super confident in, because as we saw last game, they very clearly can run a bunch of different lineups. They can give more minutes to their wings and play small. But I think that if people aren't going to roster Kaminsky at 4,300, it's an interesting spot to get to in tournaments.
I guess the big question is, how many minutes are you giving Bridges?
I have Bridges at 22.
Okay. So if that's the case, then yeah, I mean, because it's a pretty significant trickle down effect here. And how much are you giving Kaminsky?
25.
You are giving him 25. Okay. So Baines, you're giving what, 20?
20, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so basically I cut minutes from Bridges. I cut a couple minutes from Cameron Johnson at 24. I didn't give Diallo any. I have Saric at 30.
All right. Well, I don't have an issue with that. And his price has come down pretty significantly. What about the Memphis side? John Morant came back, ended up playing 29 minutes, almost 30 minutes here. Got an 8-point win over the Warriors. I think he plays 30 minutes or so today. He's been a high usage guy. He's flirting with 30% usage on the season, which is pretty significant. Dylan Brooks is going to give you 30 minutes pretty much every night. Jonas Valanciunas is the interesting one to me, because if he does come in around, we had him projected at like 5 or 6% ownership. Avery Bradley, 15 minutes off the bench. If he does continue, even with Brandon Clark, the last time Brandon Clark played, Joval played 32 minutes. So I think there's upside to play more minutes. And he fouled out in 27 last game. The Utah game, he was, I think it was a blowout, but there was another reason that he didn't. 29 against the Bulls, 32 against Utah, 34 against the Clippers. It's just always a really interesting spot. Even if Aaron Baines is back, like Joval is a 1.3 fantasy point per minute guy. He's always at least worth discussing here on the show.
Yeah, the thing that scares me is not only is Clark back, but Kyle Anderson's back. So I think it might be tough for Clark to get minutes alongside Valanciunas. But I still think projecting 28 to 30 minutes is probably the best bet for Valanciunas, with Clark just getting the backup minutes.
Well, Grayson Allen's out, so I think you'll see some trickle down there from the 26 minutes he was getting. Yeah,
I don't know, because I think Melton gets minutes.
Oh, you do have okay. So I have Melton playing only a few minutes. So
yeah, I mean, I've Melton at 6, but basically I have Clark backing up Valanciunas. I have Anderson backing up Jackson. I have Hill backing up Crowder. I have Guterich and Melton backing up Brooks, and then I have Jones backing up Conley.
Okay, so you also don't have Jaren Jackson playing any minutes at the 5 then?
Right.
Neither do I. So, I mean, 30 and 18 for Jackson and Clark for Joval and Clark isn't crazy.
Right. Yeah. 28, 20, 30, 18. I think both, like either one is fine.
Yeah. But I also don't know. I just think Joval's, again, he's a high ceiling player that can give you monster games. And his price tag is reasonable. Right now, his ownership coming in at 7%. So
yeah, I think that's a pretty interesting point. Like, I think I'm going to go with 29 on him and 19 on Clark. It's minutes wise, I'm treating it like Jared Allen. I think that him, Allen, and Carter are all pretty comparable. Allen is the one that I would give the slight edge to, but in tournaments, I expect to have exposure to all three.
Okay. What about the rest of Memphis here?
Not a ton in the way of priorities. John Morant, I think, is okay. Jaren Jackson's okay, but assuming we're not going to get minutes at the 5 from Jackson, that's less productive minutes than he'd been getting recently. Morant is a perfectly fine play. It's just that when you look at guys around him, you have Kyle Lowry, you have Eric Bledsoe, you have Middleton, similarly priced. You have Drew Holiday at a similar price point. So I think it just becomes really, really hard to get a lot of exposure to Morant.
Okay. Anything else here?
No.
Are you ready to spend some time on Milwaukee, New Orleans?
Yep.
Okay. We're certainly going to need it. If you're looking for some free content at awesemo.com, the Awesemo's live premium blog, free. NFL ownership projections, free. NHL ownership projections, also free. Awesemo.com. Check them out, baby. Today, those are the ones that you can get on the site for free. All right, so Giannis Antetokounmpo's out. If you go back to the start of last season with Giannis and Brogdon off, Bledsoe and Middleton are both 30+% usage guys. Bledsoe's assist rate's at like 37%. I mean, the production's outrageous, and we've seen that countless times. But man, I'm going to toss it over to you. No Giannis. So not only this is still a very good basketball team, but now you take what probably would have been like an 11-point spread and you get 10.
I knew it was 10s.
That's crazy.
I was just letting you walk into that.
10? It's still 10. He only moved. It opened at 9.5 now. It opened at 14. It's 9.5. That's crazy. I'm usually pretty good at projecting those lines. Wow, man. Nevertheless, still huge difference having Antetokounmpo out and Ersan Ilyasova eating up a lot of those minutes, and now just value galore.
Yeah, I think that it just makes this team, obviously the most appealing on the slate. You mentioned Bledsoe and Middleton's rates without Brogdon or Giannis. Even if you put Middleton and Bledsoe on the floor together, which I think that there's a good chance at least that their minutes are staggered. But even if they're not, since last year, 29.5% usage for Middleton, 28% for Bledsoe, a 35% assist percentage for Bledsoe. They both have double-digit rebounding percentages without Giannis out there. And 30 to 32 minutes, I think, for these guys. I have Middleton at 32. I have Bledsoe at 30. But just the two top plays on the slate for me, they'll be my two highest owned guys. I'd be absolutely shocked if they aren't. Just really productive players. They're good players that now just are in a completely different role. They're in a favorable matchup against a fast-paced New Orleans team that isn't very good defensively. Middleton leads the team in three-point attempts this year. The Pels have been one of the worst teams defending threes, and they've allowed the 7th most three-point attempts per game. So it sets up as a good matchup in that regard for Middleton too. There's just nothing really negative for me to say about either guy.
Yeah, not at all.
1 point. So they've played 541 minutes together since the start of last season without Giannis or Brogdon. 1.46 DraftKings points per minute for Bledsoe, 1.29 for Middleton.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, it's just really, really good. And you're also getting price points that are extremely favorable. The question I have for you is, what are you giving them in terms of minutes, right? Because Bledsoe and Middleton's minutes have been so much lower than we've seen before. And a lot of that's because they're just winning games easily. For instance, you and I talked about this the other day. Like Bledsoe played 31 minutes last game because this game between Orlando and Milwaukee was actually somewhat competitive. We haven't seen much of that. Middleton played 29. I've seen spots where they're projected at like 27 and 28. I'm going above 30 on both.
Yeah, I have 30 for Bledsoe. I have 32 for Middleton. I just don't need to go any higher.
No. Well, I have 30 and 30, but
yeah,
either way, you're going to get a ridiculous amount of them.
Right. There's the potential for them to play even more than that, but it doesn't really change how much I get at that point.
So let's talk about some of these peripheral guys. We had a question asking us about Hill and something about roster construction. I'm not really sure what that meant. Let me pull this up because it's a premium member and I want to be good to our paying subscribers. I mentioned that it opened at 14, but it depends on where you're looking. Can y'all touch on Hill and the best way to use him in lineup construction? Well, I don't know what the whole in lineup construction means, and I'm assuming he means George Hill and not Solomon Hill because we did just talk about Memphis. But what are you doing with George Hill? I think Ersan Ilyasova is clearly the best value option here. But for me, I just have so many of these minutes spread all over the place that Giannis doesn't open up a lot of value for me. Maybe I'm missing something outside of Ersan.
I think it opens value. It doesn't. It opens value in that it makes it so that whichever of these guys gets hot can get more run.
Yeah.
It doesn't open up a whole lot in terms of medium projection. I mean, like Ersan's a good value now. He played 9 games without Giannis last year. He averaged 24 minutes per game, averaged about 0.9 DraftKings points per minute. That's about exactly where I have him here. So at an almost minimum salary, it's a very good point per dollar play. I'm playing him in cash. I think that you can look to pivots in tournaments because it's relatively unlikely that he burns you. Out of those 9 games, he had one game where he scored 37 DraftKings points. Outside of that, every game ranged from 13 to 25. So it's not like it's super likely that he like 10Xs or anything like that. But I think it also opens up more minutes potentially for George Hill, who I have at 22. I don't think I would play him alongside Bledsoe because there are so many games on the slate. But with how cheap Hill is, I guess it's not the craziest idea. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I won't set that rule just because I would like to get a little bit of Hill. But I think it opens up more minutes for Pat Connaughton, who I have at 23 minutes. I have DiVincenzo at 20 minutes. So I think that in terms of value, I would rank them Ilyasova, then Connaughton, then Hill, then DiVincenzo, and then Matthews.
Okay. Well, do you think, I would assume that Ilyasova gets all his minutes at the 4, and then Wilson probably plays like 17 minutes in this game.
I have Wilson at 11 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. See, I have Wilson a little bit higher than you, which means that I have a few other guys that are down in minutes, which means I'm not going to get to a lot of them. But you're right. You might see a hot hand approach here for sure. And it's coming against the New Orleans Pelicans, which we will talk about now because the Pelicans now have an easier.
Hang on a sec. I don't want to overlook Lopez because I think that like right now he's projected for a decent amount of ownership, and I actually wrote him up saying that I thought he was another really good play, and I think he's fine. But this year, if you look without Giannis on the floor, he has like a 22% usage rate. But if you go back to last season, it's like 17.7%. And one thing that I did mention in the deep dive article today was that you could see his efficiency drop because he's a beneficiary of playing alongside Giannis and getting, those really good passes, kickouts from Giannis when Giannis attacks the rim. So I would expect him to be a little bit less efficient. He averaged with Bledsoe and Middleton on last year. He averaged 0.94 DraftKings points per minute. I haven't projected for a fantasy point per minute here. I have him at 28 minutes. So I think he's still a fine option. It's still an appealing game. I just don't think he gets anywhere near the bump that guys like Bledsoe and Middleton do. Okay.
I don't think so either. Talking about the Pelicans on this side of the game, they are big dogs. And yeah, I was surprised that line wouldn't move more with Giannis out, but it's still a tough spot to get away from. 232.5 total. Both teams playing at a top 5 pace. Very good Milwaukee defense for sure, but points are going to be scored. There's no question. And having Giannis off the floor is just such a huge, huge help for a guy like Brandon Ingram. What are your thoughts on the Pelicans? We know how much we like Milwaukee, specifically 3 of them. Now, how about New Orleans?
Yeah, I think that Ingram and Drew are the 2 that really stand out for me here. It is a good Milwaukee defense, but it shouldn't be nearly as good without Giannis. I don't think they'll play quite as fast without Giannis either, but you're talking about the second fastest team over the last month. So I still think it'll be a fast enough game. So I think Ingram and Drew both just really affordably priced. Assuming Ball comes off the bench again, that means more ball handling responsibilities for Drew as well with that starting unit. So I think those 2 really stand out. I think Lonzo is reasonable. He played 28 minutes off the bench last game. Jackson Hayes, I think, is another interesting tournament value because we saw Okafor get to start last game against Andre Drummond.
Big lineups though.
What'd you say?
So big lineups. I was just thinking out loud.
Yeah, I'm expecting Hayes to go back to the starting lineup here, and he's pretty cheap. I would expect 28 minutes if he starts. So that's someone that you could just get at low ownership and hope that he picks up some blocks and stuff.
Yeah. You look at Okafor. I still have I have Okafor I think I have him at 21 minutes and I put Jackson Hayes at 24. You could do if you wanted to, it's not crazy to do. And I had a few for Melly at the 5. If you wanted to go 26 to Jackson Hayes, I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah, I went 28 Hayes, 20 Okafor, and DNP'd Melly.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So you're going.
Although straight. I guess, Melly wasn't going to play last game if it hadn't been for the foul trouble, but this is a spot where you could get Melly over Okafor.
Yeah.
But
yeah, go ahead.
No, I don't think that matters too much. It's more of just as far as projecting the game goes.
It doesn't. It really shouldn't. So you have what, 28 and what'd you say?
28 for Hayes, 20 for Okafor. But if Melly got 12 of those, it wouldn't be surprising.
Right. All right. Top plays from the New Orleans side.
Ingram and Drew.
Ingram, Drew. All right. Now, from a prioritization standpoint, you've got Bledsoe and Middleton, obviously. Ersan Ilyasova, specifically in cash, just plug him in. Who are your priorities outside of those guys in this game? Maybe there aren't any.
Yeah, I mean, it's Middleton, Bledsoe, Ersan, like you said, in cash. And in tournament lineups, if you're contrarian elsewhere, he's a good value. He's just not like, he's not one of these guys where it's not Gordon Hayward at 3K, where it's just like, you're an idiot if you don't play him. Right. I think that even on this team, if you pivot to Pat Connaughton from Ilyasova, you're going to get lower ownership and a similar projection. So I like that idea. But yeah, so I think it's Middleton and Bledsoe pretty much everywhere. Lopez, Connaughton, and Ilyasova as the next guys up for me.
All right, let's talk. We got 2 games to go, and then Eddie and Josh are coming up. It's live before lock, taking you till 7. Sacramento, OKC, Danilo Gallinari is back in the mix, and then you got some guys like Dort, which is just a wild Lagward's Dort. What is it? It sounds like something out of one of those like Lord of the Rings movies or something. You know, I've never seen them, but they look cool. It just really feels like one of those names. I was like dumbfounded by it the other day. I've just never seen anything like it. But that's besides the point. We're running out of time. It's Lugwens Dort. What a wild name. And then guys like, what is it? Baisley's the other one, right? So you got a bunch of, as Ben Rasa says, creative players on this team. They really are. For Sacramento, though, I want to start with Bogdanovich. Dude, there's got to be something going on here. Like he's such a better player than what we're seeing. He's totally uninvolved in the game right now. He played 32 minutes, had less than 20 fantasy points last time out, 28 and 17 before that. He doesn't look right. Yeah,
it's concerning. And I did take some minutes away from him today too, with Bagley being back.
What are you giving him? 28?
I've been 26. Wait, Bagley or Bogdanovich?
No, Bogdanovich.
Yeah, I've been 26.
Wow. Okay, so you're bringing him down a decent amount.
Yeah, I mean, the way I mapped
Bagley at?
I have Bagley at 28.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, basically the way I mapped it out, and I think there's a bunch of ways it could go, but the way I mapped it out was with Bjelica still getting the backup center minutes and then getting some minutes at the 4, Ariza taking a big hit, and then Bagley playing all of his minutes at the 4. But what that did was move all of Barnes' minutes to the 3, and I kept Yogi Ferrell as the backup point guard. So that's kind of where Bogdan lost his minutes.
Interesting.
Obviously,
so you have Bjelica still getting the backup 5 minutes, huh?
Yeah, I have Bjelica at 26 minutes, 18. I cut Holmes to 30. I cut Bjelica to 26. I think that it's a pretty wide range of outcomes there, but yeah, I'm just guessing.
Okay. So are you giving Bjelica 18 minutes at the 5?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. It is a spot where you kind of have to guess. You're right. But if you DNP Deadman, which will be the case, and I guess you cut, like you just said, cut minutes for a bunch of other guys. Harrison Barnes still going to play a ton. I'm not really sure how much it even matters, though. It's a decent enough OKC defense. So what are we doing? What are we doing? Oh, wow. You know what? Hold on one second. Let me throw this out there. Coach S111. Dude, he just gave us $78 in Super Chat.
Sweet.
That's awesome. Thanks, Coach. Much appreciate you helping support us here. 7777. I feel like I'm in a slot machine. He says, LOL, Dort. Hope to see y'all in Miami. All right, brother.
Yeah, I met him in San Francisco, I think. But yeah, I'll be in Puerto Rico instead of Miami.
All right. Well, thanks again, man. That's awesome, and we appreciate all you guys that help support us here at Awesemo. What's up with Sacramento? You pretty much just broke down the minutes that you've got, but in terms of preference, what are you doing?
Not a whole lot. I think that as secondary options, you can still get to like Hield, Holmes, Bagley, Bogdanovich. Bogdanovich at that DraftKings price tag is still my favorite guy from Sacramento. But overall, it's just not that attractive of a game. Sacramento 30th in pace, Oklahoma City 20th. Oklahoma City, a decent enough defensive team. And there's just a lot of question marks, I think, about where these minutes go. So not really a spot that I expect to be getting a whole lot of exposure to.
Me neither. And, one of the big things, too, is that with Bagley, I was hoping that Bagley would just be dirt cheap because he's been out for so long. But he returned. He played 28 minutes. Or no, I'm sorry. That was his first game. Hasn't returned. His first game he played, it was 28 minutes. And then it was last game where he was questionable, he was like 7,100 or something. And that was pretty insane. Now he's down to 6,100. Bagley is a good per minute guy, but I mean, Adam, I feel like I'd need him, especially having no idea what his minutes are going to look like. If Bagley was 5K today, I'd probably have a good amount of him, but that's just not the case. So
yeah, I definitely would. Even at 6,100, I have him as like a neutral play where in 28 minutes, I have him at about 1.1 points per minute. I have him projected for like 31 and a half DraftKings points.
Right. How many do you have Ariza at? We had a question. Are we not buying into the, where was I think it was Rabashua asked, are you not buying into the Arizona Luke Walton bromance narrative?
I don't even know what that means.
What are you giving Ariza for minutes?
14.
14. All right.
But that's another one. Like could Ariza play 24 and Bielitsa play 16? Like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I just would like to think that they would rather play Bielitsa than Ariza.
I have no idea unless there's a bromance there and then Bielitsa gets shit on. Who knows? I certainly don't. Do you still have Buddy Hield playing monster minutes here?
I'm at 34.
Okay, so you took everyone down a couple with Bagley rejoining the rotation.
Yeah, I kind of just assumed everyone gets screwed over a little bit.
Okay. OKC, a lot of minutes from Gilgeous-Alexander, good amount from Schroeder off the bench. Gallo is returning today. Nerlens Noel's been a pretty competent backup, some pretty solid games, but you're not going to get more than 20 minutes from him. Steven Adams getting your 28 minutes in. I don't know, man. OKC is just a pretty unappealing team unless you want to get some LeGuin's Dort in your lineups.
Yeah, pretty unappealing game. Sacramento is the slowest team in the league. They aren't great defensively, but prices have come up a bit. I still think that SGA is reasonable. Gallo and Schroeder are reasonable, but there's just so many guards, so many mid-range guys on this slate that are in either great matchups or playing without key players on their team that it's hard for me to get to a whole lot here.
Okay. You want to move to the last game here?
Not really.
I know. I was hoping we'd run out of time. Golden State, New York Knicks. Man, Marcus Morris yesterday. Trash. Julius Randle. In the amount of minutes he played, he was fine, but ended up being trash. But like in terms of per minute basis, he was okay. RJ Barrett. Ultra trash. Who am I miss? Oh, I was all over Bobby Portis too. He played I had him projected for 19. Guy plays 19 and a half. Give me 29 fantasy points. Didn't mean a thing. Didn't mean nothing whatsoever. Mitchell Robinson got 27 minutes. Still trash. I mean, just across the board, man. What a monster disappointment in a very good matchup for some of these guys too.
Yeah, it was. And now they get another good matchup. Pretty unlikely, I think, that this game blows out. Probably just more likely it's a really, really ugly game where everyone kind of sucks. But I think going back to Randall is fine. The ownership obviously would be a lot lower than it was yesterday. He's not as good an option as he was yesterday, obviously, since there's 10 more games. But he was on pace for another 34 minutes. And he's, the usage leader on the team. He contributes across the board. So I think going back to Randall's fine. Barrett, Morris are kind of like neutral options for me. They could play 33 and 36 minutes. They could play a lot less. We did see the Knicks rotation. I don't know how much of it had to do with the blowout because it was in the first half, but like Alonzo Trier was back in the rotation. So we saw Mike Miller running it very similarly to how David Fizdale did. It's really tough to have a lot of confidence in anything from New York, but if you get to bits and pieces in tournaments, it's okay because it is a team where you can look to Barrett, you can look to Randall and Morris and say most likely this is where production's coming from.
Right. I just don't want to play any of these guys. It's just a treacherous experience. But it's Golden State. They're cheap. Bad Golden State team. I don't know. Golden State, man, it's just as bad on the other side. But at least you could look at someone in D'Angelo Russell and say, hey, man, this guy returned. And in his second game or third game back, he played 34 minutes. So we're good there. He's facing the Knicks. I think 7,900 on Russell is actually pretty fine. Outside of that, though, Eric Paschall, whether he plays or not, is another story. But 21 minutes last game between Spellman, Willie Cauley-Stein, Looney, Marcus Chris, there's nothing there. Draymond Green played a lot of minutes yesterday. Kerr said he was going to hold him to 27, and he's played 30 and 33 over his last two. So, I mean, it's just ridiculous. But for me, it's D'Angelo Russell and Green. If you wanted to get there in terms of quality, decent enough plays, outside of that, there's nothing I'm willing to go anywhere near.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at too. You also have Damian Lee back. So you had Jacob Evans come back last game. You have Damian Lee back now. Don't know how many guys how many guys Kerr plays, but it definitely has the potential to just be a very, very flat rotation. The only guys that I'm really interested in going to are Russell and Green, like you said.
Okay. Anything else on this game as we wrap it up?
Nope.
All right, that'll do it for us. Hey, thanks to everyone for hanging out with us. Always a good time. And thanks again to you. Was it Coach, right? It was Coach?
Yeah, Coach S.
Coach S. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate your support and all of you guys for hanging out. If you want to help support us, all you got to do is hit that thumbs up button. It does help us keep doing free content here at awesemo.com, youtube.com/awesemo, as a matter of fact. Hit that thumbs up, like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you always knew when new content is going to drop next. Stick around. Josh Engelman, Eddie Fear coming up, taking you up till 7 on Live Before Lock.
There it is. NBA Live Before Lock, Wednesday, December 11th. Myself, Fast Eddie Fear. The main event is here. 11-game Wednesday slate. Weirdness slowly happening. No Giannis is fun. That's been a big change since this morning.
There's no Giannis? I'm just kidding.
I'm excited to dive in. So thank you very much to our presenting sponsor, fantasydraft.com. If you are interested in a 7-day trial at Fantasy Draft, go to fantasydraft.com. Use the promo code AWESEMO. You'll get that 7-day free trial of rake-free DFS. 100% of the entry fees get paid back out to the user. Every contest that you enter, every dollar they take in, going right back out into the prize pool. Highly recommend you guys check that out. Anything you could do to limit the amount of rake that you're paying is going to be greatly beneficial to you in the long term. Go check them out. FantasyDraft.com. Promo code AWESEMO for a 7-day free trial. And if you want to just sign up at awesemo.com, use the promo code LiveBeforeLock. One big word. You'll get 50% off your first month with us. Eddie.
Hey, how you doing?
If you were recommending one player and one player only on this slate,
I'd be
who
prepared for this.
would that player be?
Well, Joshua, thanks for asking my opinion. Crap. The player I'm most excited to play in GPPs tonight is probably Tomas Satoransky. He was exceptional. Had probably his best career game against Atlanta earlier this year. Did not take a ton of shots. Was like 11 for 14 or 10 or 13 for something, but just ended up one-on-one against Trae Young a whole lot of the game, who struggled to a reasonable extent, especially by Trae Young standards. And I can't project him for quite as high as the numbers he put out in that game, but the minutes have been incredibly solid for him. I think they figured out that he's certainly among the best 3 guards on the team, and I have him at 36 minutes right now, and I have him for slightly more fantasy points than that, and he's running, I think, 6K on FanDuel and 5,700 on DraftKings, and the ownership not really commensurate with that point. I've been a big Zach LaVine stan this year, and there's certainly no reason that he can't get on top of his number here, but I think I can possibly get a similar number out of Tomas Satoransky for a couple $1,000s less. So the two guys... The other guy I was thinking of saying, this one's a little crazier and I wouldn't go more than like 5% ownership, is Damian Jones, which I'm fairly certain no one was going to throw out there as a number. I'm pre-Peck tear Golden State Warriors, a guy I've watched for a while, and I'm pretty sure this is just his job at this point. And I don't think the full knowledge of the ridiculous foul trouble / blowouts he's been in has gotten there. I think they are trying to start him and play him 30 minutes. And center against Chicago is roughly per minute the best position in the NBA now. It's moved around a couple times this year, but the exact ordinal level of it isn't terribly important. But it's an incredibly good spot. Dude's $4,600. I'm fairly certain it's much more likely than a lot of people are thinking that he randomly busts out 40 fantasy points in one of these matchups one of these days. If you I don't have time to pull up his stuff, but all right, here we go. So last game, 13 minutes, 5 fouls. Yes, that's not good. Game before that, 21 minutes, 5 fouls. Game before that, against Brooklyn with a couple proper centers, didn't get in foul trouble, 28 and a half minutes. Ooh. That's pretty good.
I was guessing
lost that game by no, that time he no fouls. Game before that, lost the game by 25, still got 26 minutes. And then you're getting back into when they were dithering a little bit more, but certainly not impossible for him and Wendell Carter to foul each other out in a flash of light in 3.5 minutes or something. And it's not someone I'd sit here and say, he's not my cash center. I'd not load him into 30% of my lineups, but I'd make sure I was like 2 or 3 times the field on Damian Jones. I think they're going to give him that. I think they're going to have Alex Len as the backup center. There's obviously a lot of pieces in flux there with Reddish starting and then not starting, and Bembry is much more de-emphasized now, and Bruno Fernando has basically been expurgated from his role as backup center. It's now pretty firmly Alex Len, but I am pretty sure in this brief window of time before we get John Collins back, which will just screw everything up again massively in the not too distant future. I'm at some point in the next week or so, Damian Jones is going to have like a 31-minute, 46 fantasy point game in a good matchup. And this is probably the most likely spot for it. So again, not saying slam him in everything, but it's a guy who in my first lineup, I'd be like, yeah, I like what could happen out of that at low ownership. So those are the first two names that came to mind as guys I don't think will be. Now, I've been very busy today. I just rewatched a whole lot of May 2017 PJ Tucker guarding Kevin Love, and I did that and eschewed looking at ownership yet. So let me hit ownership. I'm guessing I'm going to see some Bucks on top. I'm just guessing. Here we go. First look at ownership for me. Hey, Bucks! Boom, boom, boom. Right on top. Yeah, that's about what I expected to see. I'm not touching 51%ers on until I hear the word starting, which that's a 9:30 game.
9:30 game, yes.
Yeah. So I agree that's the most likely scenario that he starts. I don't think it's the only scenario. You can go small against this team. Both Budenholzer and Gentry have shown some inclination to do that, even defer towards it when not necessary in the past. It's one of the reasons why I'm not super over the moon on Brook Lopez. Obviously, Brook Lopez has a massive upside here, and if he's 10%, I'll like him a lot. But if he creeps up to like 20%, he's 13. That's fine. That's about where that number should be, I think. But there have been any number of games recently, even the rare competitive games. They just played the Magic. They played the Magic, and that game was pretty close. Brook Lopez didn't close. They went small. Both teams went small. You don't need Kem Birch out there. When you don't have Kem Birch out there, everybody's moving pretty damn fast. You don't want Brook Lopez out there. And they closed with George Hill in his spot, I think. So not shocked if that happens here. So while I think 13% Brook Lopez is great, and I'd want to have some, and he gets a nice boost if you look at I think it was 9 games Giannis didn't play last year. You did see, a cookie in production, but the minutes are far less certain for him than they would be for Middleton and Bledsoe, of course. The other important thing to point out here, that while it's not superlatively more likely that this game stays close, it's at least a bit more likely now. And you have to remember that, everyone on the Bucks was already underpriced because they play 36-minute games while everyone else in the league plays 48-minute games when they blow out 75% of their opponents, including, the Clippers and some other amazing teams. So I'm pretty interested in some of the supplemental pieces for the Bucks. You can talk me into... No? You made a noise there. You're not?
It's scary because there are so many of them.
Right. Oh, I look at my rankings. I wonder, Giannis is out and I ranked $10.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing. It might have been 9. Let me give it a count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nope, 10.
Yeah,
I ranked Eric Bledsoe, Brook Lopez, Dante DiVincenzo, Pat Connaughton, George Hill, Wesley Matthews, Ersan Ilyasova, Sterling Brown, and DJ Wilson. And I would want, and the worst of them, by the way, is a B in GPPs.
Yeah,
some of them are C's in cash because it's a little shaky there. I don't think it's I think the most likely scenario, I'll go 65% chance that Ersan Ilyasova starts. In this particular matchup, I'd go about 25 that Dante DiVincenzo picks up a start.
Yeah.
That really would not shock me in this spot. So I know DraftKings is 3,600. I think, is that no, DraftKings he's 4,000, Connaughton's 3,600. I think he's 37 on FanDuel.
He is.
I imagine, and he's shooting guard. I imagine he's going to be, 3, 5, 7% owned over there. Some small number. That's a really small number. And dude is going to play 20 minutes in an exceptional matchup anyway. If Giannis is in, if someone said I have 5% Dante DiVincenzo, I would have said, yeah, that's fine. He can get in there. Wesley Matthews can, injure himself again. There's any number of ways he gets extra minutes. And even if he doesn't, 20 minutes of a guy who on FanDuel, by the way, also has very nice steals upside. Hands have been very nice this year. I would have already liked some. Now I've got no Giannis. There's a number chance. Maybe 25% is too high, 30% is too high for Dante, but there's some chance he starts. He had started games, and you can go small here.
I had 18% on my last crunch, just FYI.
Oh, there you go. Okay, but I mentioned that also puts you well over the field. I have not even loaded or looked at
that. Would be 2x.
It's at 9.
Yep,
that's fair. It is not the sneakiest thing in the world, but that made some sense to me. $3,500 George Hill, same thing. If he was just getting 20 minutes against a really woeful Pelicans defense, I need to get a thesaurus out or just think for a while, because I really run into anemic, woeful, describing bad defenses. I'm really relying on 3 adjectives, and I feel like I could broaden my game quite a bit that way. But looking at DK prices, it is harder for me to get away from Bledsoe than Middleton.
Agreed.
If you're telling me I can play one of these guys, it's going to be Eric Bledsoe for me. It would barely be Eric Bledsoe for me at the same price. Being $400 cheaper, it's now Eric Bledsoe by, it was a hair. Now it's 2 hairs or what have you. Their ownerships, even at those ownerships, I would feel the same way. We have at 48 and 42. I would still rather put Bledsoe in my one lineup if I am trying to largely, if for some reason I had to eschew one of them. Look at Chetty Osman. What are you people doing? Sorry.
You don't want to ask me my exposures then.
Really? You're all over that?
Okay, so all over is probably not the best way to describe that.
Didn't he have 8 fantasy points in the last game in a decent matchup?
Probably. He's terrible.
Yeah.
He's 3,300 now.
He's my favorite Cav. I'd rather pay 3,300 for Chetty Osman than 6,000 for Kevin Love or 6,100 for Tristan Thompson, both of whom have markedly bad matchups. I was just watching some PJ Tucker, Kevin Love defense and stuff like that.
So I ran my crunch and I ended up with like 60% Chetty Osman. And I was like, well, that needs a closer look because I had him projected a little bit higher than Alex did. So I went in, walked his usage rate back a little bit, walked his rebounding rate back a little bit, just gave it a little bit of a refresh. Still getting to a bundle, but it obviously came down. On my next crunch, I'm thinking I'm going to be over the field, and it's super duper uncomfortable, but
yeah, I mean, it's like I started talking about, Satoransky is $5,700, and Damian Jones, who's a value I'm hoping I hit some upside at, who's 4,600. Like 3,300 is really cheap, and there is not a lot of value. And in fairness, that's what's leading to a lot of Ilyasova and Chetty at the top. And plus, everybody's out there playing some. There's plenty of nice spend up options. So yeah, point per dollar. I guess those end up being the Chetty is should cost whatever $3,900. $4,000. You just need to, you need them to keep this close, or dude probably gets 19 minutes or 22 instead of 30. And I don't know, 19 minutes of Chetty, you're asking for a lot to happen, I guess. But
if he plays 19 minutes, I just assume my night went poorly.
For some reason, I thought, yeah, that is exactly what he played in the Philadelphia game. 3.5 fantasy points in that game for Chetty Osman. I remember 19 minutes. I didn't realize 3.5 fantasy points. That's really quite something, which is a real kick in the nuts because that was right after the Orlando game where it was like the first day of the year I touted him and he had 37. So I'm sure on that next game, he was randomly 6-7% owned by people who got the 47-point blowout and 3.5 fantasy points of production.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that on DK. That's for sure.
Yeah. The matchup is there. But they have often, like, he does not get frequently the blowout run, and that was the season low. So I think a reasonable projection, ignoring blowout, which I don't know exactly how to quantify it, but it seems like there's a decent chance of a blowout here. But ignoring the blowout, you should think you're getting 30, 31. I imagine you have 32, maybe actually sitting in that range.
I think I have him at 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's any of those
21 fantasy points or something.
Yep,
Which feels a little high.
It's not unreasonable. Yeah, I think I had 20, so you're in the same. I get it. Again, it's one of those guys where it comes in like, and I understand if you're building your lineup, you need some value. Like I would rather. I would go look and see what George Hill costs. I think he's 35. I'd be kind of implied to that if I could get my $200.
Like 3 games ago, he went for 36.75.
Yeah.
5 games ago was 33. Like,
yeah, and a terrible matchup too with the 36. That was Orlando.
Like, if he shoots 10 times, I assume I'm okay. And
yeah.
I like.
I instinctually reacted to 11 game slate, 5th on ownership, Chetty Osman, and went.
Oh, it puckers me something fierce. Don't get me wrong.
Like immediately, I'm like, and then I look at it and I think about it more, and it's like, yeah, the value is pretty thin. I mean, top 10, I'm looking at DeAndre Hunter, who, he had a good game, maybe 2 in a row.
Yeah,
could happen.
Look, it's scary. I don't mind taking monstrous stands on cheap value.
Me neither.
Those are the things.
No, I think I tend to stand negative, where I tend to be like, screw that cheap value that's 60% on. You tend to be a little more likely to be like stand positive than me. I don't know if that's the case.
I know what you mean. No, I am way more likely when a guy that is, sub 4K, particularly on DraftKings in this scenario. FanDuel changes it up a little bit just because of the way positions work. If that guy is one of my top few value plays, the most likely scenario is that I'm going to have him in a staggering amount, hoping that is at least average, because you can make up from. Chetty can get me 10 fantasy points today, and while I'm probably not going to be winning any GPPs, it has not slowed me down from cashing in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that's fair. It will, if you, again, I think it's very difficult to ever expect to make any significant money if you don't take stands and intentionally differ significantly from the field from time to time. So I don't think I really realized until this moment. I've looked at everything game by game, gone through, done coaches' comments, done video, done everything. I didn't think I realized until this moment how thin value is for a slate of this size.
Yeah.
It's really thin.
There's not a
lot out there.
Yeah. And that's how you end up on a boatload of Chetty Osman.
Yeah. It's the more I look at it, I'm like, yeah, I if I think the guy gets me 20, that's looking pretty good tonight. And it's also, there's not a ton of guys I super love and feel confident in. Again, obviously site dependent. But hitting a decent, like I like Satoransky even more now because he's 5,700. I do think there's an upside game there. And again, we did just see it, but even if you hadn't just seen it against this Orlando team or Atlanta team, it was almost a month ago, I think. It would look that way. And again, just played 38 minutes. So the fact that they're leaning on him a little heavier, yeah, I'm a big fan of that. And I want to go look and actually see what we have him projected for. Yay, 4%. So yeah, I would want 15. Like I would definitely have more. I don't think I would go nuts crazy, but it's a really interesting slate.
I'm excited for it in the way that it's not as if we just are painting by numbers like we did on, say, like the Gordon Hayward slate.
I heard about that one.
There's a lot of... I don't think there's anything that's like super cut and dry. I mean, play the Bucks is a thing, obviously, but there are a lot of them. And
there are a lot of them, and they have worked. Even if you go back and look at that Orlando game, they really thinned the minutes. That's a 9-10 point game. They won that game by 9 or 10. I don't know. Let me go back and look at this game, make sure I'm not completely talking out of my butt here.
YouTube chat. Not really happy with my thoughts on Chetty. I'm being told that I am quite the fish
for
having that
being
much.
Somewhat confident in having that much.
Yeah.
I don't think. Did you actually give it? Yeah. So they won the. I'm talking about three things at once here. How much do you actually have?
It was 48%.
Okay.
It's a big number.
Yeah,
big number.
It's obviously very low risk. Yeah. I mean, I would. Yeah, I mean, if the field is only 24, I guess that's not grotesque, but it's an 11-game slate. So yeah, if you went back and looked at the Orlando game, which was about 10 going into the fourth quarter, the Bucks eventually won by 9 at home. Giannis was in. They played 11 guys. They all played double digits. Of the starters, only Giannis and Bledsoe played 30 plus. Middleton played 29. Brook Lopez played 24, as we mentioned, and didn't close. George Hill closed. Wesley Matthews started and played 25. George Hill, even getting the closing time, played 21. Dante DiVincenzo played 20. So now it's not unreasonable to assume they're still running a 10-man rotation. I think they probably put, I'll guess, DJ Wilson and or maybe Sterling Brown get back in there, though very possible neither of them play. You're probably still just getting Lopez backing up Lopez time. And again, in this, the Orlando game, they combined for 38 minutes at center. So they will go small as we had previously mentioned. Yeah, it feels like the field isn't about the right place, having those guys in the 40s or 50s. There's no way they're both. I don't know. I'm either fine or I'd want more. I'm going back and forth between it.
Yeah, I get it.
There's obviously they're super popular. There is some threat to minutes, but 6K Bledsoe, yeah, I think I'd be over on Bledsoe. I think I can talk myself out of getting much over on Middleton. I suspect I would be in the 40s on Middleton and closer to 60, 65 on Bledsoe.
I think that's right about where I was on Bledsoe on the last run. Let me double check it.
Yeah, I'll take
Bledsoe 53 on FanDuel, which is slightly over 87 on Bledsoe on Draft.
Okay. So yeah, we have. Let's see. That doesn't need a comment. No, all that is fine. Everyone's starting who we thought they would. Okay.
Yeah, and no new info or anything unless you're really interested in Malik Monk being a game time decision, which I guess is like sneakily interesting, but probably not.
It had one really good game against the Nets this year.
Ooh,
so that helped you out.
Speaking of the Nets, Iman Shumpert available to play now.
Nope. Take all your Zahn and Musa and just throw it out the window. Yeah. More value down. I think I ranked him too. I gotta push some more rankings without Musa in them. I was not super enthusiastic about Zahn and Musa.
I'm hitting a bottleneck in my DraftKings crunches somehow. I need to up my exposures a little bit. hitting that bottleneck. Okay, let's take a look at some of the ownership. We just touched on the Milwaukee side. Let's touch on the first guy that isn't a Milwaukee Buck. What do you think of 26% owned Donovan Mitchell?
It's hard for me not to like him. He has underperformed Sans Conley based on my expectations, what the core numbers suggested to me, and even specifically matchups like this one, in which 1-2 combo guards, I think are in an exceptional spot, and we have seen a number of teams most prolifically through the backcourt really stick it to this Minnesota team. Utah as a team has oddly really suffered from the loss on both ends of the court without Conley, which feels weird because Conley himself had been so underwhelming this year, but pulling him out of there, they're struggling pretty significantly. 26% Donovan Mitchell. It's still too high for me on a slate of this size. I think Donovan Mitchell is in a great spot. If he was 15%, I'd probably say he's my favorite play of the day in order to contextualize those comments a little bit. So I'm just fine with any amount of Donovan Mitchell you get to. On paper, 7,400, that feels fine. I think he's like 8 flat on FanDuel. Those are both under prices and feels good. But there is just the whole world of, besides the Bucks guys, I'm a big fan of getting some leverage in that game, playing Drew Holiday across the ball at $7,100, or playing Kyle Lowry at $7,100, or Rubio is 73 in a matchup I really like, and he's looked awfully good. There's really a number of places to go there. So I think he's a great play. 26 for me on a slate of this size is still a little too high for him. But if you happen to have 35% Donovan Mitchell right now, I wouldn't sound any alarms on.
I don't think that I had a ton on my last go. I don't even, where's his name?
Wow, that's bold.
Yeah, 21. So just holding hands with the field. Quite a bit under on FanDuel, too. I have enough money freed up on FanDuel to get to 2x the field on someone like Harden, so don't mind taking the step forward.
Harden's a really interesting point. I mean, that salary is getting crackerjack, and we were just discussing the paucity of any significantly good value there. Keita Bates-Diop is out. Okay, it's getting interesting now.
Slowly but surely, yeah.
Getting interesting now. There's maybe something going to go on with that game. Ingles' price has come up. That has come good a couple times now. I think that was reasonable to expect. That I've seen a number of. I think we have overcorrected on the Towns Gobert thing, and what I mean by that is, for a number of shows leading up to this one, I was like, Towns really doesn't suffer terribly from playing against the Jazz and Gobert, and that has been the case. Sure. I think we may have overstepped that. Like, I have other people going like, "Hey, you in for Towns against Gobert again tonight?" And I'm like, "Whoa." Back in the day, I was talking about like price down for the matchup Towns, low owned, and guys out. Like the last time they played, I think we were without Wiggins, and that was one of the reasons I was like, "Yeah, I think you can really get to Towns in this spot." Depending on who exactly ends up out for this team, it's not a target the Jazz, target Rudy Gobert spot. It's just not something. I just felt like I should point that out because I had 3 people so far today be like, "Hey, going back to Towns against the Jazz." And I'm like, it's not like it was something I was ever super excited to do. I was just saying, given other people out, it's something you can do. But I'm still in the 2-3-5% range on that guy tonight, I think.
On Towns?
Yeah.
Have you seen his ownership?
No.
Karl Anthony Towns at 15 right now. He was a little bit higher owned earlier today.
Wow.
Thoughts?
That's a significant number. Yeah, it's too high for me.
Okay.
I get the idea, but he's still 10 on the nose. Am I getting that number right on DK?
Yes, 10 on the nose.
Yeah, I can't get behind that. Like, I think he's just fine in this spot. I think I have him projected for 49, which I have a feeling is under what other people are having if he's that highly owned. Because there's lots of other guys I have projected, 40, 42, 45 who cost, $7K, 7 and some change, $8K.
You steal my spreadsheet?
No, I don't even have access to your spreadsheet, to my knowledge.
You can if you want.
What do you have, Matt?
49.3.
See? I love it. Making beautiful music together. Yeah, so that's just, I don't want 49 for 10K. I kind of need, I don't know, like I'm okay with 55. I'm really looking to get 60 there because I just think I can get, pick the, comparing to Donovan Mitchell. I think Donovan Mitchell's going to give me 40. I don't want to spend 2,600 on the next 10. Can he get there? Sure, I would have some percentage, but what do you have Donovan Mitchell for? I think I have him actually at like 38 and 3/4 or something in that range.
40.1.
Okay, so yeah, we're still in the same ballpark. So yeah, that spend up doesn't make sense to me, especially with shit value, by the way. If we're in the land of 3K Gordon Haywards, it's an entirely separate conversation where I'm like trying to like James Harden, and these guys make a lot of sense because just, okay, I might get 62 out of Towns, and that might be the second highest score in the slate, and I just need to have it. And there's enough value that I know some of the value will cover it, so I'd prioritize it. But, if we're in the land of most popular value being Urson, second being Chetty, third being, I'd be guessing, let's see, Bismack Biyombo is under 4K. I bet he's got like more ownership than people should be comfortable with. Third game this year between the Nets and the between the Nets and the Hornets. Both of the first two sort of had the same story where the starter got crap minutes because Jared Allen just made them look bad. Jared Allen had a big game. He had one decent game with like a low end double and another very big game where he had like some 45 plus fantasy points, which
he went crazy.
Yeah, I'm fine to. I mean, the price has obviously come up where he's no longer. There was a really nice period of time there where they sort of made it clear they were going to prioritize him and he was going to start and frequently would get like his 30 minutes. And in good matchups, him at like 6K under those specifications was a pretty juicy thing. But
just finished my DraftKings crunch. Let's go on to the next guy in ownership. Thoughts on? All right. Well, the next guy was Chetty. We already beat that drum.
I do want to revisit it just to say it's really not that crazy. There's just not enough decent value, and you're going to have lineup constructions where you need guys who cost around that point. And I probably, as of right now, prefer Urson if I know that I can make a change. If I have some sort of backup plan to get it out of there if Urson isn't starting. Urson will still be fine if he isn't starting, but not if he's not starting and is 50% owned. Then I'm going to look somewhere else because, maybe they just run kind of small, which wouldn't be that weird, and somehow slide in Dante. I don't think you really want to run out what would functionally be, Chris Middleton at the 4 in this matchup. So I don't think that's the most likely scenario, but Chris Middleton can guard Brandon Ingram. Like that is not an unreasonable ask of him based on the size of those two guys and the frame on Ingram. True. So I'm really not sure how that goes down. But yeah, at the moment, I'd be a little more inclined, assuming I can double check it on Urson. But if you go back and look at the, and again, I haven't had time to watch any of the video, but just look at, the boxes and read some of the game reviews of the games that were missed by Giannis last year. He missed 9 games. The 9th one was a game they sat everybody. So just everyone was the heck out in that game. And there was another one not long before that was again a being nice and resting guys for the postseason. But of the 7 games he really missed, you still saw them frequently, put the hammer down on reasonably bad teams. And even when they didn't win by a lot, or even when, it wasn't a super blowout, I'm doing too much of this from memory. So okay, now I've loaded it. So just clicking through, get rid of that. Okay, so just poking through these, you had a lot of games where they intentionally still went really light on everyone. I'll give you an example. They beat Chicago by 11 in a game in which Giannis rested. They started Urson, Bledsoe, Lopez, Middleton, and at that time, of course, Malcolm Brogdon. Which today would probably be Wes Matthews, but the starters in that game played 24, 25, 26, 27, and 27 minutes. They won by 11. They entered the fourth quarter winning by 12. The last 2 quarters, they won 27, 26, and 27, 26. So it was basically a 10, 12-point game the whole game. And Budenholzer rolled out his starters 27 minutes apiece. I'll grab another one at random that looks like it ended up pretty close. They beat the Magic by 20. If you're curious in that one, Middleton got 32, Bledsoe got 29, Lopez got 26, Brogdon got 23. Let's look at another one. They played the Lakers. They won by 14. You had heavy minutes on the starters in that one, so that's more encouraging. But I seem to recall there was another time that I felt like Budenholzer was sort of team resting, and just Giannis got the full kick. Let's see. They beat the Cavs once by 16. That's really nothing specifically to look at. Most of the starters were around 28. Anyhow, I'm just saying, I don't, that's why I have concern for Brook Lopez. I got there by thinking about Ersan. I'm like, even if Ersan starts, I would put Ersan at like 21 minutes. Now, 21 minutes of Ersan in a good matchup with no other value out there is still great. Don't misunderstand me. But when you're, looking at it versus the ownership, I think he's owned kind of like he's going to start and play 28 or 30 minutes. And I don't think that's likely to happen. So
I gave him 22.
Okay, so again, we're in lockstep there. So that's
just
good.
Finished off my DraftKings crunch, which is going to hold barring any new news. 37% Chetty, 90% Eric Bledsoe.
Fine with both. Here's the game against the Raptors last year. Giannis sat out, exact same starters. Ilyasova 23, Bledsoe 26, Brogdon 28, Lopez 29, Middleton 31. Some foul trouble on Brogdon kept him down a little bit. But, anyhow, it's not clear. Here's a 5-point game against the Cavs. They lost to the Cavs. Here's an interesting one. And this one, people got their time. Tony Snell, who was there at the time, this is when Brogdon was out as well, I assume. Middleton played 37 minutes in this game, which played close all the way through. Brogdon played 37 minutes. Bledsoe played 35 minutes. Ersan started, and again, this game was a 5-point game. They lost by 5. Ersan in that game started with no Giannis and played 24 minutes and 54 seconds. So you're almost certainly not going to get more than 25, 26 minutes out of Ersan. That is a ceiling projection. So just keep that in mind with how excited you get about Ersanity.
And they've been playing so many people this year. So
yeah, they're running 12 deep on healthy games sometimes. It's crazy.
Now, that's what happens when you beat everyone by 40 every single night that you step out onto the floor. But here we are.
They're both they and the Lakers, who I was higher on both those teams at the beginning of the year. I had Bucks over 76ers for my 1-2 in the East, and I had the Lakers over the Clippers, which was entirely predicated on if they're healthy. They have to stay healthy, and that's far from a lock thing with Anthony Davis and an older LeBron who had his first significant injury last year. And but if they stay healthy, I was a big fan of that roster. Those teams have been sublime.
Yeah, I didn't see this coming from the Lakers. Not to this degree. Obviously, I expected that two of the top 8 guys were going to be, A-okay when they were out on the floor.
Yeah, you and I had this conversation earlier this year where I've had this conversation with a few people. Like, I really think Anthony Davis might be the most underrated player in the NBA.
He's so good. He's so good.
If people get frustrated by the injuries and by this, and he was on a bad team, and now he's sharing with LeBron, who's also point LeBron, so the ball's constantly in his hand, and he still has absurd upside, but his skill set is still really under-recognized. If he's healthy 100% of the time for a year, I think he's a better basketball player than Giannis, Harden, Luka. Like, I think he's the best player in the league. It's close with Giannis, but when I look at him compared to Giannis, there are a lot of things. Like, he is a great shooter, or at least a very good shooter, especially for a dude his side. Giannis is obviously a big hole in his game is that he's not shooting super well. There's not much, if anything, Giannis actually does better than him. He's obviously bulkier. He rebounds, I think, a little bit better, is fair to say. You could say he has slightly better handles, although Anthony Davis's handles are actually pretty sick if you look it up. I'm a big brow stan. I like his social media personality and the way he's been marketed, and like I understand why he's not everybody's favorite son,
right?
But he's a guy who doesn't get the credit for just being an absolute monster sometimes.
So good. I'm so anxious for the playoffs. I hope everybody can get there in one piece.
I love this whole parity thing. I know like rankings are down across the league, and there's a lot of really interesting things that are being written about the fact that, they think that's related. And
I think they'll be fine come playoff time. I think those ratings will be just where they want them to be.
Yeah, there's some, but I don't care about the rankings, right? Yeah. Like I care because I want the league to be, but whether or not I have 21 million people watching last game of finals or 19 doesn't terribly matter. But the basketball is incredibly compelling, and the parity thing is amazing. Like there's 4 or 5 teams in the East I think are really interesting and have a shot at doing something special, and there's several teams in the West that are still really fun to watch for me. So I'm pretty excited about the NBA right now. It's fantastic.
There it is. So we've touched on some of the chalkier plays for today, at least from a DraftKings perspective. I want to shout out a couple names from FanDuel just to get your thoughts, because it's certainly a little bit different. Bogdanovich, James Harden. We've got Brooke Lopez. These guys are 4th, 5th, and 6th in ownership. Spencer Dinwiddie.
Now Bogdan's 63, right? Is that the number? No, not Bogdan. You're saying I thought Bojan. Yeah. We're talking Bogdan.
What is 4,500 on FanDuel.
Oh, well, yeah, that makes... Yeah. I mean, he's obviously not fully healthy, and you have Bagley coming back. Both of which are things of interest. And there's some interesting... I got my Bogdanoviches confused, I think, for the first time this year, but I thought you were saying Bojan was that highly on. I'm like, really? Like, I kind of like the matchup. Okay. Yeah. 4,500. That's cheap. You got a lot of people. There's also it's worth pointing out the pricing disparity. There, Bledsoe is 200 more, right?
Bledsoe on FanDuel is $7K.
Yeah, and Middleton is 68. So as opposed to DK, where you get a $400 discount going to Bledsoe, that's a much tougher cookie. So
there are 9 shooting guards more expensive than Chris Middleton today.
He might be my highest projected one. That's the funniest part about this is going to go. No, well,
including Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Harden's in there.
Yeah.
Okay, that may need a change there, but I have him. I have him projected now above Shea, Van Vliet, who won't play, Healed. He's above Wiggins. I gotta check him and Graham right now. Nope, I got him over Graham. Oladipo's out. I have him over Drew by a little bit. Yeah. I have him just under Donovan Mitchell. So yeah. There are 3 of the ones more expensive than him. I actually have 2. I have my hair over Devin Booker. I have Harden for 23 points more or whatever. So like
Harden for as much as 2 of those guys, basically.
Yeah, and he costs as much as 2 of those guys, so that filters out nicely. So right, so the Bogdan situation, I'm still a fan of. All the things that need to be present. Now, what's his ownership exactly?
26.
Yeah. That's enough that I'm probably actually looking to get away. Okay. Like as far as the projection goes and his ability to get there, I'm not super concerned about that matchup for the Kings. I think that can work out just fine. I don't expect Bagley's return to make an incredible bit of relevance there. You are going to get some sort of minutes distribution. It's obviously not going to be the shockwave when you get De'Aaron Fox back. But that is going to make some interesting situations with, Bielitsa has obviously played really well and just hit the best shot of his career in the last couple days. And now, sorry, you're back to playing, 14 minutes behind Bagley. Might not be something they immediately want to do. They'll keep Dedmon out of the rotation entirely, obviously. But long story short, that number's fine. 4,500, especially 4,500 on FanDuel. It feels good. That price is out just fine. He doesn't look right. He does have that one knee where he's still on that list of guys alongside Blake Griffin and a couple others where I'm like, yes, I can tell he's moving differently. I hope it comes back, but as of right now, he's still favoring a little. Just the step is a little slower. So, 1,000 over the floor for Bogdan. Yeah, I feel fine with that one. What was the next one?
Just
James Harden, you said? I think you put on that
list?
Harden's
at 23, so just slightly behind him.
Yeah. Obviously that's much easier to get to on FanDuel than DraftKings, where he's proportionately like 12-2 on FanDuel is somewhere around 13-5 on DK. So the price is much juicier. I inverted that, so let me try that again. Like 12-2 on FanDuel is less on DK. Yes. On DK, he's 12-7. Yeah. 12-2 is like 11 or 11-1 or something on DK. So that's a much different ballpark. So the price is obviously, to start with, much more tolerable, and also the way you have to build by position there, and the existence of a couple other edge value plays like Bogdanovich, which you mentioned. Kem Birch is perfectly viable as a I think he's 4,400 at power forward. It's a little easier to get to the value on FanDuel. So all that said, that all seems to be about where it should be. I'm fairly optimistic with it. D'Antoni, again, we're obviously dealing with a super short rotation here. I think they would like to give guys some more time. Again, they have Isaiah Hartenstein up from the G League. They have Chris Clemens up from the G League. Last game we only got, I think it was 4 minutes out of Clemens. But there's still no Austin Rivers, so there's a real chance they're basically running a 7-man rotation again, and Cleveland is not defensively going to stop anyone. So no. I'm not going to object to you playing any of sort of the main 6 on that team. PJ Tucker is just going to get a giant bucket of time. Westbrook played under where I expected him to be for a long time, and has played over where I expected him to be for about the last week. I think we've sort of seen a very long valley and a bit higher of a ceiling there. I think it'll normalize about somewhere between the two of those. You're not going to get quite as many games where you only get a couple extra shots out of Harden. You're not going to get quite as many consecutive double-doubles or triple-doubles out of Westbrook. But I like this spot. Tristan Thompson has always done a very good job with Capella. It's not a particularly brilliant spot for him, so I have him actually fairly low on my Rockets rankings. But I'm fine with McLemore, who's going to play 32, 33 minutes off the bench. The price, it's far from a must, but if I saw him in a GPP lineup, I'd be fine with it, whereas most days I'm really not. But the absence of guys where I think he's still going to get 32, 33 minutes, I think I had him projected for. You can certainly go there. PJ Tucker is absolutely fine to go back to. Daniel House, I'd prefer to McLemore, and this is fine to go to. He looks okay to me. But Harden and Westbrook as well, who get more time in blowouts than they should. I don't know how else to say it. There's lots of times like you're winning by 34. You've got Harden out there. There's 3.5 minutes left. Maybe you can take him out of there. D'Antoni has a thing for that. So
I've got quite a bit of Harden, quite a bit of Russ, particularly on FanDuel. Cavs are 28th in the league in points per possession in transition. Watch out to see Russ just run all over these dudes.
Yeah.
Got to hit on a double super chat then once you're finished here.
All right, I'm finished here.
Cool.
We can continue.
Dueling super chat, same person, Dave from Slack. We'll start with the easy one. Bledsoe or Satoransky in a FanDuel GPP?
Well, I think it is $1,000 more for Bledsoe. So yes. By any raw points projection, the answer to that question is Bledsoe. If you're telling me I am playing one lineup in GPPs tonight, and you're giving me that choice, I would probably put Satoransky in it and make sure I'm playing Middleton.
Yep.
That's probably what I would do, but that's not that. I can't recommend that because just Bledsoe is a better play.
There's a reason that Bledsoe is 45% owned.
Right. So it's difficult to say. The correct answer to that question is Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe is a better play than Tomas Satoransky. Eric Bledsoe is whatever the heck he's owned on FanDuel. Again, 45%. Maybe that was a FanDuel number. Satoransky, who's, I think, 6K flat.
Yes.
Yeah, he's 5,700 DK is probably 9%.
Cut that in half.
Like 4.5%. Okay, so yes, I would put Satoransky in my one lineup there, making sure I had Middleton.
Yep.
And that isn't crazy for me with just, it isn't hard for me to envision, Satoransky having 40 and Bledsoe having 35 in his 26 minutes. Like that isn't a bizarre occurrence for me. So that's what I would do. But again, it's hard for me to turn to you and say, Tomas Satoransky is a better play than Eric Bledsoe tonight. But at their ownerships, that's the decision I would make, yes. And with the different pricing relationship on FanDuel.
Sure.
For what it's, that would factor into my decision as well.
Other question from Dave.
Sure.
This is going to be FanDuel again. Who is your highest owned bust pick of the day? If you need me to...
let me look at that. No, I'll pull it up.
I was going to say I can read them off for you. If you.
I don't want to make you read the list.
I'm pretty sure I know your answer on this one.
That's a great question. This is going to hurt me deep in my soul. What do you think my answer is? I'm curious now.
I would guess. So, given when that game starts, and because we're talking about FanDuel, I would say that 50% Ersan Ilyasova seems a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah. But
it's hard for him to bust.
Right. He's 38. Right. That's why I hesitated, where it's like, well, the first thing I want to say is, well, Ersan Ilyasova at 54%, it doesn't make sense to me because, again, I think I've given a pretty compelling case that like 25 or 26 minutes is really probably an absolute ceiling. Like, so I don't think that's maybe quite as common knowledge as it should be. And I'm not certain he starts. So there's a chance you get, 18 minutes. And if there's the blowout, you're going to have DJ Wilson out there in that position. There's just enough ways it can go squirrely that number is too high. But what's you asked the highest bust percentage? Like, what are the odds one of these guys falls on their face of the chalky guys? It's probably more likely Bogdanovich busts relative to his salary, even for $700 more than Ersan Ilyasova, just because Ersan is pretty consistent when he gets time, and he's going to get 20-something minutes. Bogdan's playing on one knee in a team with not nearly as good of a matchup and ... But looking at these ownerships, the one I look at on FanDuel that I immediately go like, it was sticky. Michael Carter-Williams is cute. That seems, minimum is minimum, but that's, I get it. You know, you got no, he'll back up a couple positions, and we have DJ Augustine starting and Markelle Fultz out. So I can see it. I feel like I want to pay up for point guard tonight.
Same. And I did. I thought you were going to go Brook Lopez there.
That was the other one. And that's the one I said, this is going to hurt me deep in my heart. Like, yeah, Brook Lopez, could not close because of blowout or just not closing. And, not having Giannis out there actually hurts his efficiency in a couple ways. Like you do obviously just pick up a ceiling where instead of taking 11 shots and 7 3-pointers, he takes 14 shots and 10 3-pointers and happens to make 7 of them. Like, there's nothing wrong with $5,200 or $4,900 Brook Lopez by any means, but there's a decent bust percentage chance on that one. You can just end up with those other guys carrying a lot of water. But I do individual, like, he's not going to be well guarded by Jahlil Okafor or Jackson Hayes. Like, their best defender for him would be Nicolo Melli, who may not touch the court. So I don't mind some Brook Lopez, but the bust percentage would be high. There's a very good chance that Brook Lopez puts up a stinky night, as he did just a few days ago when I had him on Friday, and people cursed at me. There was actual cursing, Josh. You went on. Let me tell you something. I'm not doing Fridays again, my friend. You need a break because you're a hardworking man. They are some cruel people on Fridays. They come out of the woodwork. People said some not nice things about my mother and my dog. It was terrible.
Wow. Crazy people. Yeah. Crazy people.
Nutty.
We got another super chat from Robert Hallman.
Cool.
We got a 3v3. Are you ready?
I am.
Bogdan, Kem Birch, Gobert, Andrew Wiggins, Ilyasova, Brolo.
Cash or GPP?
GPP.
Or site?
FanDuel GPP.
Right, it's FanDuel, so I thought. I would play the first one.
I would play the first one as well. I'm pretty high on Kem Birch today, which is a statement that probably shouldn't get said out loud.
Well, here's the thing. Value is correct. I really, really don't like the matchup. Again, I've been Lakers defense truther a whole lot of this year. It's
not going to go very well for Mo Bamba. That much I can tell you.
Right, exactly. And that's part of what factors into me being like, I actually kind of think they need him out there. I don't think that Isaac at center works in this particular spot. They need him out there guarding, Braun Davis, somebody the hell else. So I think you really want Kem Birch to get out there for 28 minutes or something, and value isn't that great, and power forward isn't that great. So $4,400 Kem Birch on FanDuel, I'm fine with. I'm not excited.
I got like 70% on my first run, and I was like, okay, there's no way.
Got to dial something back a little bit.
Yeah,
let's roll that back.
Yeah, so it's 20 now, which I feel.
How are you looking at center on FanDuel? I'm kind of curious looking at this. So
very little at the top.
I would think.
Under the field on Rudy Gobert, essentially no Clint Capella. 36% Brook Lopez.
I was about to say,
I'm all the way down. Jackson Hayes, who's hasn't been spoken about at all, but is still no favors.
I spoke about him. I said literally, he can't guard Brook Lopez. That's what I've said about Brook Lopez.
Very true.
Or about Jackson Hayes, rather.
And then,
how much does he cost? Is he like 4K?
5K.
5K. I think you can Biombo at 39. You got a little of that.
And that's the next one. You
got any Any NS Cantor in your life?
I do
Is
not.
that coming in there at 38?
I have 75% of my exposure going to Lopez, Hayes, and Biyombo. I'm all the way down on center today.
I do not hate that. The real question is, why don't you have more Damian Jones? Sorry, just had to get in there. I don't know what he costs on FanDuel. He's 46 on DK. I think he's actually like 5 something on FanDuel. Let me find it.
He is
5.2. Yeah.
That's a big one.
That's a number.
Yeah.
It's not a number I'm immediately excited to be like, Damian Jones 5K plus does feel dangerous. But yeah, try to make some money. So there it is. And center being a bit of a minefield makes me feel a little better about it. So FanDuel I'd have less for obvious reasons.
Center is the spot that I'm least comfortable. It's pretty much I'm really, really flat in my expectations of how often any one of these guys hit the score that I'm looking for. And when that happens, 9 times out of 10, I'm just gonna funnel to the bottom and start jamming in.
It sounds dumb, but I think everyone halfway decent at DFS does that. But yeah, if you don't like a position, really prioritize the cheap guys.
Yeah.
Like if shooting guard is shit, spend as little as you can on shooting guards. And there's people I see that all the time where they're like, "What do you think about my lineup?" I'm like, "Well, it doesn't seem like the best night for Zach LaVine." They're like, "Yeah, but I don't like shooting guards." I'm like, "Well, don't play when it costs $8,000 then. Run, run Wesley Matthews out there in your life. Like it's not exciting, but."
I don't have a great feel on, let's say $7,400 Montrezl Harrell. So I'd rather save $2,500 and get that much more Russ or LeBron.
I'm a huge Montrezl Harrell stan, but with everybody in that matchup, I don't mind if you have a little, but it doesn't project terribly well. It's just
right,
the
like
same
I have
thing
2%, And I have a little bit of all these guys, like, a couple shares of Clint Capella, a little bit of Rudy Gobert. 4 or 5 lineups of Montrezl Harrell, 4 or 5 lineups of Tristan Thompson. But the actual bulk, it's just like I'd rather be at the bottom here.
For about 3 weeks at their prices, I have been ranking Paul George, then Kawhi Leonard, then Montrezl Harrell, then Lou Williams. And I do expect to see those prices continue to do this a little more. We obviously had Lou Williams crack under the 6K barrier finally. So they're starting to get to the point where I'm going to have to readdress those positions.
He's 3.5% owned on FanDuel today.
Lou?
Yeah.
What's it cost?
$6K.
Ooh, wow.
I have 16.
Yeah. And again, that's the equivalent of 5.4 on DK, give or take 5.3 or something, just, for context. So
that guy can put that up in a quarter.
Yeah, you can just put the biscuit in the basket. Like there are plenty of times this year I was like, look, Lou Williams is 6,700. One of those guys is out. I'm just going. He's going to get there. Like he ranks a CA for me more often than any other player in my pool. Where I'm just like, yeah, it's Lou. He can get out there. It's just when all 4 guys are there, it makes it really tough. But yeah, $6,000 on FanDuel is a super. I didn't know that. That's a very sexy price.
This question is for me, but we only have 3 minutes to go.
Oh boy.
Kenrich Williams thoughts 4K on FanDuel? Small
I
forward?
like him.
Okay.
I like him. I think he starts. I ranked it the last time when he was 3,700. I was a big fan. I wanted more. And I kept bringing him up as a player I was interested in. And you obviously are getting some additional exposure to a game where you're either, you're just a game we want to have some interest in, in theory, just because we have Milwaukee exposure. And set ourselves up a little better if it goes super nuts. So yeah, I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of Lauri Markkanen, someone whose name we haven't said. I think I like him a little more than Zach LaVine tonight relative to their salaries. I have him behind Satoransky as far as guys I'm prioritizing getting into my lineups, but he started to look better. The minutes look better. He's basically getting backup center time, sometimes all of it, sometimes some of it, depending how much foul trouble Wendell gets himself into on any given day.
Mr. Wendell?
Mr. Wendell Carter. Call him Bud, after the guy from LA Confidential.
That I don't know.
Well, you gotta get in there, Bud.
Haven't watched a lot of LA Confidential in my life, I'm not gonna lie.
That's film noir, my friend. It's brilliant stuff. Any other good questions? I feel like there's many other things to talk about.
We are 45 seconds from lock at this point.
Okay, well, then...
The question is, who is going to be interesting in this rousing episode of Daddy Likes, where we have 4 games
Wow. I'm going to go look at the schedule real quick before it starts, and then I can kick back my chair. And
Cavs, Rockets.
Right.
Pacers, Celtics.
Yeah, I know that one.
Magic, Lakers.
Okay.
Raptors, Clippers. 2 really awesome basketball games.
Yeah, I was about to say, there's some great games tonight. Yeah, it is not the best DFS slate I've ever seen, but it's a great night of watching basketball. I can't wait to watch some hoops tonight.
Bucks Pelicans could have been so good in like a perfect storm of having Zion and Derek Favors being healthy, or I guess Derek Favors playing. He's healthy.
Yeah. I feel bad for the guy.
So do I. I mean, that's sad as it gets, really. And then we cap this off with the perfect rotten cherry of Warriors Knicks.
That's oh my god. Who's all right. So I have not looked. I looked at over understood. I have not looked at lines. I'm going to attempt to guess the line in that game. They're in Golden State, right? They're in Golden State. I can't believe I'm asking that. They're in Golden State. They're not playing in the Garden starting at 10:30.
Correct.
A couple terrible basketball teams. Nah, D'Angelo's back and Draymond's back. So Golden State's favored.
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct.
I'll say by 4.
5. Well, I had 5 in here. If it moved, it could have.
Yeah, in the ballpark. That about makes sense. That's hilarious. Like, that Golden State team is favored by 5 over another professional basketball team.
It's
madness.
It's incredible. They are going into this game right now. Knicks on a 10-game losing streak. Golden State, meanwhile, 2-8 in their last 10. So it's not exactly like they've been beating people off. Well, that's a weird way to say that. Didn't mean that. Well, that just came out like it did. And on that note, it's time for everybody's favorite game. Daddy likes. I have got the exposures for the whatever dollar on DK. How much is it? I don't know how much it is today. The Mega 8s.
That would change things a little. It's 8s? Okay. I'm not going to pretend like I can factor that in.
Oh, wait. This is not the contest that I wanted to be in here.
Okay.
Hold on. There we go. Wednesday shoot around, the $12. I don't need to be in the 888. That's just going to look like a cash game.
Raptors, Clips, Cavs, Magic, Celtics, Pacers. Okay, I'm ready.
Alrighty, here we go. All right, so we have. Ooh, okay, this is gonna get fun. So we have 7 players in double digits of ownership. 2 of those players are north of 20%. The other 5 are essentially smushed together. So, we'll start at the top. Who are the 2 chalkiest players in the first 8 teams to step on the floor?
One is Kyle Lowry, and then I have no idea. I really should have. This is going to be tougher for me today because I spent very little time looking at our ownership, which at least informs me and I remember it. So, one's Kyle Lowry.
You would be correct. Kyle Lowry, the chalkiest play of the 8 teams on the floor, 31.9%. I will let you know. I had 39.
Okay, that's fine. I'm generally a fan. It's again not a brilliant matchup, but 71 just a little bit too cheap. There is an upside there. It's pretty safe and cashy. The floor feels pretty good. Getting Van Vliet out helps even more, and it's talked about it a couple thousand times this year. I don't want to spend a half hour on this. I'll just fuddle on a couple things. I'll say Chetty. I'm not confident at all that you had 20% of Chetty, but
Chetty is a double-digit guy. He is not the second highest owned guy.
No, that's what I would have guessed. All right, so if it's not him, it's someone in that game then. So it's either Kawhi or Pascal. I'll say Kawhi is over 20.
It would be Pascal Siakam, 24% owned.
Not crazy. Don't. It's more than I would want. I would not have 24% on the slate quite this deep against, an elite defense. I suspect you also have a little bit less than that, but there's no Fred. There's not I'm not.
I have 18 on Siakam. That seems like, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That feels closer to the number I'd have. So again, I'm in alignment with you there. I assume Kawhi is also double digit owned. People like a good narrative.
Correct. Kawhi is next. 17% owned.
Okay. But am I right that I was going to say, I bet Paul George isn't even double digits.
You would be very correct.
Right. So, I would have preferred
he is
Paul
for
George
me
for that reason.
I have 22.
There you go. Yeah, I would have preferred Paul George for that reason. For a number of reasons, but people go narrative happy, and Kawhi is literally the least narrative-y guy ever.
I flip-flop these two guys. Kawhi is the highly owned one.
I'll play. Yeah, that's
Paul George is at 6. I have the high own on George with Kawhi at 6. So
yep. And I was. There's been a couple times this year I preferred Kawhi, and they were after a monster Paul George game, and Paul George was $600 less, and then he was going to be 38% owned as opposed to 8, and I'm like, okay, I'll take the 8% one, but. Kawhi just doesn't do the revenge thing at all, by the way. He was in Toronto and back to San Antonio. He had one absolutely dreadful game. I remember his first game in San Antonio where he was the mega chalk and was a stain. Or maybe it was the second one or something, but he's failed revenging himself against any number of teams. So
I'm sure he's plenty happy with his stay in Toronto.
Yeah, it's like, oh, geez. They loved. He gave them a billboard today. I don't think he's out. Whatever. It's just not a great matchup. So 17%, in case you didn't figure out, too high in Kawhi Leonard.
Agreed. Chetty is next, since you've already mentioned him.
Okay.
I obviously came in a bit north of the 15% number that he is at.
Yeah, it sounds like you did. I don't think Tristan gets there. I don't think Kevin Love gets there. Did Kevin? No, Kevin Love. All right. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Just going through the game. I got like 6 regular suspects left. Still slightly do any of the Rockets get there is the thing that's going through my head right now. I don't. I'll try Russell Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook is 8% owned. I have 23.
I don't know if I'd be quite that high, but I'd have more than 8. Again, just because D'Antoni really doesn't. he's like Janice from accounting. He just does not give on. Not gonna have enough LeBron. Not gonna have enough Anthony Davis in that spot. All right, so
LeBron James, by the way, 6% owned.
Yeah, that's not heavy ownership on LeBron. Anthony Davis, I assume, roughly the same. I think I had them both within a point or two of each other where I expected them.
AD 7, LeBron 6. I have 13 and 11.
Yeah, again, I really think over time I can't explain how important I think those ownership nuances are.
Yeah,
I really there's just no reason Kawhi Leonard, who should be double to triple owned, the combinations of, LeBron and Anthony Davis are fine. You want to say, Harden, that's fine. Harden's price on DraftKings is really, really significant. Like it is,
especially on today's slate.
Right, especially with that bad value. That's fine. I'm sure Harden is. I will go with 4.5% owned.
5.4.
Okay, so the dude is not going to be on. He really wrecked your lineup. Like you had to make some bad choices. I don't hate that. All right, so other guys in the top 10.
By the way, we had him projected for 5.4.
Did we really?
Yeah.
On the nose. I swear to God, our ownership projections are so good. And you know what the toughest thing about it is? I think they're wrong like 10% of the time, which is phenomenally brilliant is the problem with it. So I get in this position where I don't like to talk down the product. The product is great. I think it is superlatively, demonstrably, by a significant level, better than the next set of ownership projections I've ever seen. And I've seen 12 sets from 4 different companies over as many years. But occasionally I think it's wrong. So I'm always like, I don't like, because I feel like every time I need to say, by the way, they're brilliant. I happen to disagree on this one number. And half the time when I disagree, it's just that actually I'm wrong. But on the nose, that's impressive. I can't begin to state how projecting basketball players is hard, but at least I understand how to do that. I don't understand how to project ownership so well. I just don't know how to do it. There's so many moving pieces, and then everything's obviously got to add up to the sum total of ownership, and so many games. Over time, where you have 11 games today, so trying to come up with the nuances of 5.4% on Harden is absurd. So
it's craziness.
Well done,
you
gentlemen.
You still have 3 to go.
Oh, jeez. All right. All right. I'll go team by team.
I'll say this much: you have named one of those guys so far. You talked yourself out of it too, so I just
Kevin
shut
Love.
up.
It is Kevin Love. People went there.
It is
It's
Kevin Love. It is Kevin Love. 14% owned. I'm essentially the same.
Okay. He is obviously ridiculously cheap. It's a pace-up matchup. As a whole, the Rockets defense has been crap. 14%, I'm fine. Earlier in the day, I know he was supposed to be super duper chalky, I think at some point, largely before, obviously, Giannis news and a couple other things.
Malik Monk out.
Let's look at some things. The only other guys I can think of are Domantas Sabonis.
Gets it.
Is that one of them?
It is.
And then there's another guy I'm missing, which I don't have right now. And
Sabonis,
I'll come back to it.
10.8% owned. I have 20.
Yeah, don't mind it. Not a super fan, but Celtics going in at the big, I'm fine. The price is still a little bit too cheap. Getting that backup center time instead of Goga, I can certainly get behind Demo here. I'm gonna look at some Charlotte things real quick. Obviously, it's not terrible for Devonta Graham. Monk had a very decent game. I'm almost certain in one of the games against Charlotte or against Brooklyn earlier this year. Let me take a look at this. Just for context, I feel like he had one of his 2 good games this year against them. I could be getting that wrong. No, because they were both close games, and that's why I wasn't sure. I guess it wasn't a monster. He played 28 minutes off the bench one game, shot 5 for 13, made a 3, both his free throws for 13 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, and 2 steals. So, I don't know, 21 fantasy points for Malik Monk, which for Malik Monk, that might have been one of his best 2 games of the year. So, I'm trying to see if I think there's anything super actionable about that since we are here talking.
I think you just get all those minutes, most of those minutes going to Dwayne Bacon, and then they give like one of those Martin Goons or something, a rotation.
the Caleb's and the Cody's and the
they can't play. They can't play the other guys. Like Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier and shit are already playing 36 minutes. So
right. Yeah, it's the fact that Batum is expected not to play as well that makes it. I'm really trying to see if there's anything super that you can do there.
I don't see anything off like on the surface that stands out.
Yeah, nothing you can do. It's a minor help for a couple guys, but I really can't get behind Bacon, who I think is still very possible he wouldn't play, and that you would get Cody Martin out there before him. Yeah, Cody is the one who's up with the team, I think. He plays I think Cody's a small forward.
I can't remember which one's which.
It's Cody and Caleb. Which they're rivaling the Zellers and the other. We had a while. We had some very Cody Zeller and the Zellers. We say was the most white family ever. Like Cody Zeller, like you knew is Cody, Tyler, and it was them or the Plumleys. We had this conversation, which was like, which family of people in the NBA is most obviously Caucasian? And certainly Cody and Tyler Zeller sort of yells out,
Yeah.
lacking pigmentation.
Yeah.
Much like myself.
Trying to think if there's anything else. Not.
I'm still missing a guy.
Oh yeah.
I went through that game. It's neither of those. It's not a Laker. It's not a Magic. Wait. I don't know what Michael Carter Williams cost on DK. And I'm hoping people aren't that bad to randomly slam.
I can give you that answer. Michael Carter Williams on DK is 4K.
Okay, that won't be it then. That's not getting 10%. All right, I'm out of teams. I'll say DJ Augustine.
DJ Augustine gets it again on the who's it going to be? It ends up being DJ Augustine question. 12% owned.
It's the only one I thought the people. That in case you're curious is too high.
I played 8. I get it. I mean, he's going to play minutes, but
yeah. Well, let me put it he's up against. I'll be generous. One of the top 3 defenses in the NBA. Imagine earlier this year, before he lost the starting job to Markelle Fultz, on an 11-game slate, and he was playing against one of the best defensive teams in the league. Would you be racing to pile in $4,800 DJ Augustine? So I think that's a bad shiny new toy pivot there. It's not a horrific play. Dude's gonna play now 33 minutes instead of 27, but it's not a good matchup, and the ceiling is always a little bit muted. But I ranked him a B and a C. He's all right in cash for me. legit bad, and like he did not deserve 12% ownership on an 11-game slate. But
Tyler Lee says that the opposite of what we were just talking about is Marcus and Markieff Morris.
yes, that's the guy. Yeah, so we had. I don't remember how we got to that game. It was just the German names or something, and I ended up talking about. It was because one day I won a very big GPP with Tyler Zeller as my center once. I had almost $100,000 day once with 1.5% Tyler Zeller and won every GPP on FanDuel with him as my center. And I told that story, and he's like, "Wow, you're talking about basketball. I feel pretty safe. Tyler Zeller is white." Is what the guy said to me. I'm like, yes, he's incredibly, he's see-through. He's a very, very Caucasian man, and that led to the conversation. But
So, Giannis and his brother are probably pretty obvious.
Greeks, Mediterranean,
Yeah.
cradle of society.
Very true.
It's a beautiful place. My family's actually in Crete right now. A lot of my family.
My
I have never
family
been.
is, nowhere fun.
My father and my two sisters are currently in Crete. And I found out when my sister called me and said, "So are you coming with us to Crete?" And I went, "I wasn't invited." And she went, "Oh."
Well, we're not going anyway. Just psych.
That felt good. No. She was like, "Oh, we're going." I just feel like an ass now. I'm like, yeah, that wasn't cool. So yeah. Thanks, Dad.
Here's the rest of some of the exposures. Nothing terribly interesting to point out. Gordon Hayward 8, Russell Westbrook 8, AD 7, Paul George 7, OG 6, LeBron 6, Capella 6, Harden 5, Colin Sexton 5, Tristan Thompson 5, Never Google 4, Ben McLemore 4, Lou Williams 3. Larry Nance 3, PJ Tucker 3, Norm Powell, Jordan Clarkson, Daniel House, Kemba Walker 2. That's probably just like weirdly too low. Yeah,
he was okay on FanDuel.
Jason Tatum 2. Yeah, I liked him more on FanDuel as well.
Yeah.
John Isaac 1.8, Miles Turner 1.4. That is interesting.
Yeah, I would want more than that, especially we're DK still. We're back to DK.
Oh yeah,
but
he's
like
DK.
5. He's like
52.
52, right? Like that's an incredibly small number. So 1%, and again with center being not particularly brilliant, like there was a reason I could tolerate Damian Jones, and it was I didn't have. It's really interesting how bad this slate is for 11 games. I like the slate, but the relative, what I'm saying, number of guys who look like they're about to, there's days we get done on a Wednesday and it's like, God, the winning lineup's gonna be 465. I don't really feel like that today. Like there's some guys I really like relative to the rest of the field. And obviously the Bucks have thrown a big wrench in that. But imagine Giannis is playing. This would have been it feels like it would have been one of the lower scoring 11 game slates we've had.
For sure. Gary Clark 1.2%. I believe that is all going to one Adam Ship My Money Share, who just messaged me and told me that he had 15%. Didn't see that one coming.
He's only 12 times the field.
Yeah, quote was, "I have 15% Gary Clark on DK. Did not see that coming."
I miss not doing shows with Adam. He is delightfully acerbic. I don't know. I can't find the right adjective, but he just has a really sort of unique, like, that's, I'm just guess I'll just have to do it by being better. Like he just has this really, like, I really miss doing shows with Adam. He's brilliant. And his modern approach is like he plays DFS the way I played DFS 5 years ago. Now it's like diametrically opposite of what I do. So it's hilarious. So like every time we talk about a guy, I'm like, oh, I saw that guy play in a EuroLeague game in Barcelona once, and there's this really interesting thing he does with the spin move around the 3-point line. And he's like, yeah, well, he's got a 23.9% assist percentage, and then he talks about numbers for 6 minutes, and I'm like, yeah. So also there's this thing where I think the coaches, and then he would talk about numbers for like 4 minutes.
It's a good balance.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it made for a great show. He's a smart dude. Is he as profitable as you have been this year? I know you have been cashing checks.
No, he's also playing at a much higher level than I am as well, but not the best season for Adam thus far.
Wow.
And I have been on just a stupid eater. So.
Yeah. We lost last Wednesday. It was who screwed us? What happened? It was someone we thought was gonna. I can't remember what it was. There was someone where I quoted. Someone got hurt. It was something where I like quote tweeted you and like, no, your Wednesday ROI. There was some player you had made a stand on, and I can't remember who it was, but something went wrong and they didn't play or got hurt or just were hot garbage.
I do remember you like tagging me in it.
Yeah, and I quote tweeted, the Wednesday ROI, because through the first, 7 Wednesdays of the year, you were like profitable on all 7 and up.
By the way, through the first 6 minutes of this game, here comes Jinxie Jinx. 2 boards, 3 assists, a steal, and a block for 1. Chetty Osman.
Oh boy.
Wish I had that 60% now.
They should. Yeah, I feel bad. I talked it down a little bit.
I talked myself down on that. He's got 11 FanDuel points already. Keep it going, old Cheds.
That's not bad. Feels
he could bagel the rest of this game. That would not be shocking.
We have, more importantly, tie game.
Ooh, interesting.
There you go.
1% own, or 0.01% own Jonathan Motley. BJ Johnson. I don't know what team he's on. I also feel really bad for him for going through life with that name.
It sounds almost like an imperative or a direction.
Kyle Kuzma 0.02.
Yeah, there you played yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know if BJ. I believe BJ Johnson is on the Clippers, but I am not at this moment sure. I know who it is, and I can picture his face.
I don't know what team Motley is on at this point either.
Motley is on the Clippers. That I knew to be he's definitely on the Clippers by way of the Mavs. Like, I know where Motley's moving around. Motley's pretty good. Motley was, I don't know if you remember Motley being a DFS monster a couple times.
Yes.
Where he had 50-point fantasy. Like, he was an April special. He did some real damage.
He went through a stretch.
BJ Johnson is on the Lakeland Magic. Oh, I just saw him play. I just watched the Magic Go-Go's game. He's on Orlando.
I don't see anybody else that played themselves.
Well, it's hard. There weren't many ways. Fultz? I would have thought Fultz caught a couple people.
0.08%. He is actually the highest one so far. Yeah, is Patrick Patterson available today?
I do not believe so. I think he is actually officially out. Did you see what happened with the Bulls in the injury report?
I did not.
So Jim Boylan gave some comments when he was talking about, I think it was Zach LaVine. And someone asked him about, how he was, because he took a bump or two. And he said, Zach's had a few injuries for a while now, but they're not so severe that we've put them on the injury report. So he said that.
Smart, Jim.
And then all I know is the next day, if you noticed for today's game, they raked 7 people probable. So I'm pretty sure they got a phone call.
Yeah.
Because going into today, Denzel Valentine, who hadn't been on the injury report in forever, was probable. And Kobe White, who had never been on the report, was probable. And Zach LaVine was probable. And Daniel Gafford was probable. And
League Office cut a memo on that one.
And Archie Diacono was probable. And there's another one. I think Wendell Carter was probable. They all became available in the middle of the day. But it was really funny where that happened. And I saw a tweet about it. And then today I look at the injury report and all there's 8 probable guys. And I'm like,
Way to go, Boylan. Maybe you should have had everybody running suicides. Get those people onto the injury report.
That's a Chicago tradition.
I don't miss running those, that's for sure.
I do not either. They one of my worst memories ever is my freshman football year, where I was also a couple years young, and I'm out there playing football, and I had neglected to bring cleats. I had forgotten to pack my cleats. And we go out there the first day, and it's running sprints and stuff on a muddy field, and I'm wearing sneakers. And I'm going nuts because we're in huts and stuff at our football camp in the middle of nowhere. And I'm really small at this time. I'm whatever, 5'8", 125 pounds or something. Like, I'm tiny at this point. Like, I was really, really fast. I played receiver, eventually turned into a tight end. Now, we had this guy on our team named Jim Hicks. Jim eventually played offensive line for the Oklahoma Sooners. This was a gigantic, scary man. And I kept screwing up on this drill where we were supposed to weave these cones because I'm wearing sneakers and there's an inch of water and I keep falling down. And every time I fall down after the first one, the coaches go, okay, everybody do a lap. So we're about 7 laps in. And Jim Hicks is, 12 feet behind me. And let me tell you, I was running my laps fast because Jim Hicks is 12 feet behind me going, I'm going to kill that kid. And I was not one of my better days ever. So then I took every cent I had I'm like 12 at the time. Leave the camp and go to the nearest Walmart, and they have 0 pairs of cleats in my size. But I did it on foot. I walked at night. Like, we get done. So I've done 9 hours of trading. I've run 165 laps. I'm soaked with mud and stuff. I walk, grab my wallet, and go like, okay, I know there's a town there. And I start walking, and I find the town. They don't have any cleats my size. I called my mom, begging her to drive the 7 hours back. Like, cleats. Yep. Thankfully, the next day I broke my wrist. That was that for that year.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that did it. I managed. I waterboyed. I lettered in a few things, but my first varsity letter, that's right, manager.
Nothing wrong with that.
There's something pretty wrong with that. But anyway.
Why?
Because it's like I don't know. But don't get me wrong, you're part of the team, but a varsity letter for the 12-year-old freshman who brought the water over is, doesn't mean, it's not like you can wear the jacket.
Sure, that's
it's
fair.
like you can do anything with it. It's like,
super
here's
fair.
my varsity, and I eventually got several others doing stuff. Like, I have a great trophy around here that's good. I have around, I play competitive board games and stuff, and I have lots of trophies around the room from various board gaming competitions where, right here I won a Dominion tournament. That's pretty high. And here I came in second in a Puerto Rico tournament. That's pretty good. My favorite one of these.
I've got both of those games sitting in my closet right now.
You do not. I've never
You stay there.
I've never had more respect for you. He's got Dominion in Puerto Rico. Now, like, Dominion is very chess-like in that it's very it has a beautiful learning curve in that it's easy to learn. It's very simple. It's a deck building game. You build a deck differently every time. So that I'm not shocked that he has, because that has a lot of casual appeal. But Puerto Rico is some hard ass gaming shit. Look at that. You said Puerto Rico. Dominion, I'm not that shocked by.
So I'm wrong on Puerto Rico. I have San Juan, which is
okay. See, that's Puerto Rico light. That's
yes.
Puerto Rico, right? But it's actually not the same genre. It's the Dominion of Puerto Rico. I mean, it's sort of. It's you know what I'm saying though. But it is Puerto Rico light. That is the easiest description for it, right? Which I'm still thrilled with Dominion. Don't get me wrong. Dominion is great as a gateway drug type game of that sort. And I see you have the Seafarers expansion and something else going on there.
Seaside Intrigue in the base game for right now.
Yeah. No, those are just fine. We'll play online sometime if you want. There's some really nice online ports of it. It's a really good one.
We got a lot over there. Just picked up Patchwork on Black Friday.
Nice.
I'm playing a lot of Azul. I got Food Chain Magnate. Haven't been able to play it enough.
I haven't done that one yet.
A lot of work.
I haven't.
That's like you need a couple hours type game, and sometimes I can't do.
Yeah, I don't get to. I've been playing a lot of video games again recently. Same. So this last year has not been a big. Like, I've been playing a lot of Modern Warfare. I've been playing a lot of Elder Scrolls Online. A friend got me back into. I love some of the things they've done with that game. Playing a lot of video games. So my board gaming usage this year is way down, but the several years before that. Yeah, I would play 50 online board games a week. I'm a gigantic dork, but I play lots of Puerto Rico, lots of Agricola, lots of
that one's
St.
in the closet.
You got Agricola? That's heavy lifting.
Yeah,
that is not a messing around.
I would have grabbed it. I ran out of real estate in my arms.
That's excellent. Yeah, board games are exceptional. We still need to make them, in this country and have them not be shit, but we're slowly getting there.
I could have swore I had Puerto Rico in that closet, but I might only have it on the iPad.
Okay, well that's fine too. But I was saying that one of the I wasn't surprised. I was still surprised, but I wasn't as surprised you had Dominion, because Dominion works well with almost any group of people. Even if you're not like a hardcore gamer, you can teach someone Dominion in 6 minutes, and it curves. It's a brilliant game like that. Puerto Rico is really complex strategy and thinking many turns ahead, and it's it is not a light game. And also, Dominion is, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 minutes a game, depending how many people.
Right.
Puerto Rico's 2 hours.
If you get, not that you even need to get any expansions, of which there are a ton.
God, I don't even
You're
know
basically
now.
never playing the same game twice.
Right. The way it works is, so you build a deck at the beginning of each game, and the deck that you build everyone plays from is chosen at random by drawing from these starter cards. So it never plays the same way twice, as you said.
Yeah. And if you start adding in, picking from multiple expansions, you're talking infinite potential starting cards.
Yeah, I remember the first time I played games of that genre. It draws a little bit from a collectible card game that was called Doomtown, you may or may not have heard of, which was a CCG set in the Deadlands universe. Sadly, a game I would have loved to have worked on and never did. But it was the first game that really got me thinking about the cool possibilities of regressing your deck as you're thinning out your deck to change the field. And the way Doomtown worked was, it was just like a normal collectible card game in that you had, the card, and the card had, the rules text on it for whatever it did. But in the corner, there was also a suit and a value for a standard playing card. So this card, like a card that you played in Doomtown, would do all the Doomtown playing the game stuff, and then the corner would say 8 of spades or something. And then as the game went on, the combat mechanic when you fought another player was you put aside your game hand, drew a new hand of cards, and played poker with it. So there was this great thing where you could design your deck as the game went on to thin itself so you could only draw straight flushes. You're like, okay, once I've got, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was the greatest
part. What a
part.
layer.
Yeah, it's so good. By the time you got to the end, it was the best part of deck construction where you're like, okay, I'm going to make all my locations and stuff hearts so that the first time through my deck, I play down all the hearts. So I've only got the 3 suits left. And then I'm not going to play anything higher than only by the very, very end could you get your deck down low enough. And there were cards that let you draw more cards. So if you had, bonuses, enchantments, whatever in play, you could draw 9 and keep 5. But you could set it up so that towards the end of the game, and it was themed in the Wild West.
Ooh. Sorry, James Harden has 17 real points in the first quarter.
Oh no!
Not to be outdone, Kemba Walker has 15, but Harden has 17 points in the first quarter.
I want to say we like both of them. Again, we didn't comment on either one extensively.
I played 47%. I played 47% James Harden on FanDuel. Unfortunately, I do have quite a bit of Russ, and he has not been involved as of at this point.
Well, hopefully, I'm guessing very little of it is a stride.
Right.
Like, I know you have a lot of Russ. I mean, getting Russ and Harden to get there in this matchup on an 11-game seemed unlikely.
Russ has played 4 less minutes. They're in that stretch now where they're split. So Harden should be coming off shortly and doing the opposite.
Yeah, my FanDuel placeholder there was Bledsoe, Satoransky, Harden, and some other guys. So let's go.
Well, on that note.
Yeah, but no, I want to finish my Doomtown story here. So the game was set in the Wild West, where you were taking over mines and saloons and stuff. So the poker was also very thematic. And the way the combat worked is you'd have a different number of dudes in the fight, and however many hand ranks you beat your opponent by was how many dudes of theirs died. So if you could put up 2 pair and I put up a pair, one of my guys died. If you put up 2 pair and I put up 3 of a kind, one of your guys died. But it was so cool when you were building decks, you would play it out and be like, I'm trying to get this to degenerate, like get some of the suits out. Whenever you were building the deck, the poker range, you were like, oh my, are you trying to build flushes, in which case you're trying to reduce suits? Are you trying to build straights, in which case you're trying to reduce values to leave everything between whatever 5 and jack to pull a lot of straights? Are you trying to produce lots of 4 of a kinds and shit? I think I can build this deck really well by playing lots of only 7s, 8s, and queens. So I'm going to get full houses and 4 of a kinds by the time we get to the end game. So it's just it was really fascinating deck building process.
That's a really intriguing mechanic.
Yeah. And so that was, I remember the first time I played it, I went, oh, that's just genius. And the fact that it tied in with the saloon flavor playing poker was great.
I like that.
Another part of the mechanic was you could reveal an illegal hand and it played unless someone had a cheating card, which means I could reveal a hand with 4 queens of hearts. And it was 4 queens unless you had a card that said, so there was that additional tension because there were 2 formats in the game. One was build anything you want. The other one was called Bicycle. And in Bicycle, you had to have in your deck 1 ace of diamonds, 1 2 of diamonds, 1 3 of diamonds. So you had to, when building, select for really, really interesting stuff. Yeah, it's just one of those times I went, wow. It was one of So I just remember the first time I played it, I'm like, there's so much going on here. This is incredible. And again, it was dense and it wasn't the world's best license, but it was one of those few times I played a game and I'm like, wow, bravo to somebody. And I can't actually name the designer off the top of my head, for which I'm ashamed. So I know a lot of game designers and I'm a big fan, tipping my cap to them. I can't remember who designed Doomtown, but excellent work.
That's a really interesting mechanic.
Yeah, I believe did make it into a 2-player game. So
Perfect.
It's called Doomtown. It is based on Deadlands. I think they may have made it into you can buy it now for $30 as opposed to, starter decks and booster packs. But it was, and I never got to play it that much because at that point I was like on the Magic Pro Tour and my other gaming time was spoken for. But yeah, that was one of those games I was like, oh my God, it's brilliant. So layered. Yeah.
Doomtown Reloaded came out in 2014 per Board Game Geek.
There you go. And I imagine that is a 2-player or just a box version, a la Dominion or something like that. But
2 to 4, best with 2.
Yeah. Brilliant game. I'm gonna get it for you for Christmas. Give me your address. I'm sending it to you for Christmas. It's done. It's coming now. I'm loading it up. I'm not even kidding. I'm sending you Doomtown for Christmas. You've been a great host. I've enjoyed working with you for this year and a half. I'm sending you Doomtown Reloaded for Christmas. Message me your home address. It's going to be there in a week.
Oh, you don't want me to shout it out on the stream?
Well, that's what I would listen. There was a number of times I was sharing. I periscoped my phone number because I think someone was in crisis or something, and I didn't know, but I didn't have another way to get there, and I had no idea how to direct message through Periscope, and I thought someone was really going to hurt themselves. And so I went, all right, look, this is my phone number. Send me a message. We'll talk as long as you do yours, something like that. And yeah, it was very cool. But and nobody griefed me horribly. However, I did get a whole lot of which one of the Lakers do you like tonight randomly coming in his text messages for a month and a half.
Gotta love that.
Yeah.
I'd be terrified to give out I would have to change my number immediately.
I thought about it, but I will give, I have done that. I've had my daughter who is doing wonderfully. But has some special needs. And she'd been on the show in the Periscope with hundreds of people watching a couple times. And it's a nightmarish thing. You're worried someone's going to whatever.
Be, the way that some people are. Yeah.
Not a single time. Not a single time. My daughter has been on there 3 or 4 times and people are like, oh, you're lovely. And we'd sing a song together or something. It's
good. It restores my faith in humanity a little bit.
Somebody tweeted that yesterday. Somebody, Mac Applechick. Who lives not far from me, tweeted, where has all the kindness gone or something like that? And I responded, it hasn't gone anywhere. It's still out there. It's still everywhere. It just doesn't draw as good ratings as obscenity.
True.
And that's there are brilliant, wonderful people in this world, far more than anybody can realize. So I'm a fan of man, as the great Al Pacino said.
Goguys, for everybody that is still with us, please hit that like button on your way out the door. We still have 800 of you. I'm going to go sweat some basketball.
I got to finish my last story. So the reason I brought that up was I was talking about how I couldn't wear the varsity letter. I have one of these somewhere, which because you're trying to leave, I will not go find.
You're good.
It'll take me 30 seconds to 3 minutes. But I have one of these that was for winning the team championship at the World Board Game Championships. Now, the World Board Game Championships at that time were held in Pennsylvania. They're currently held actually on the other side of Pennsylvania. I think they're now in Western Pennsylvania. They were in Eastern. I haven't gone yet to Western.
I think we talked about this once before. So I showed up at a friend's wedding that was at the same venue as the Catan Championship.
Okay.
At the exact same time. I was like, can I go to both?
I would so be into that. My friend Bob Marr's wedding, we were drafting at the tables during both the reception and the ceremony. He was a big pro Magic player at the time, so there were boxes of booster packs on the table. So here's your cake, order your main deal, select a card and pass to your left. It was just part of the ceremony, so that was pretty brilliant at the time. But anyhow, it reminded me of the varsity letter because I was the worst teammate ever. I did not go, and the format of that. It's a big thing. There were probably 2,000 people go to the World Board Game Championships. It's brilliant. You would love it. It's very structured, very competitive board game.
I'd be so scared.
So it's great. This Dominion tournament is from EuroQuest. EuroQuest is a satellite tournament held in Maryland. It has 300 to 400 people, I would say. So it's still really nice. They have a hotel ballroom. It's not as huge as World Board Games Championship, which is thousands of people. So, but this Dominion tournament, which I won, had 40, 45, 50 people in it, maybe more. That was back when it was popular. This one might have been closer to 100. But they give you here are your pairings. Go to your table. You play against these people. Record your scores. Okay, you play this many heats. You need at least one win and 1 second place to qualify for the quarterfinals. They give out plaques, and it's really cool and competitive. The World Board Game Championships is the big one. It's much more hardcore people, and there's a couple thousand people, and the Dominion tournament probably has 300 people in it. Some of the larger ones have 500-600 people. They're just massive tournaments.
I would get bodied in that.
And the format for their thing was each member of your team has to. EuroQuest is a better team format. It's just your best score in any given game, as in 10 points for a win, 7 for second, 5th for third, something like that. And then whatever team has the most points wins the team tournament. You sign up in teams of 3. World Board Game Championships is you sign up in teams of 4. Everyone names a game. Top 3 scores on any given team count. So I was there, and my team was myself and 3 guys who were professional game designers, which again was what I used to be. So 4 of us with professional game design experience. One guy named Randy Bueller, who's a pro Magic champion and designed Magic sets, and currently, like, guys, if you were a gaming geek, you might have heard of. Anyhow, it's me and these 3 guys, and I have to cancel at the last minute. But so it's drop lowest score. They drop me. And they come in like first, and second in their named events, which is really hard to do because you have to go in and say, like, I'm choosing St. Petersburg, and your score is whatever you get in St. Petersburg. It's not your highest in anything. So in 400-person tournaments, you can just get a bad draw and lose. But they all take their stuff down. We are the World Board Game team champions, and I get a plaque which says, like, Edward Fear 2000 whatever World Board Game Championships, Team World Championship, individual score 0. And so, like, I just, much like the varsity letter, I can't really display that plaque like, I was a team world champion. I did nothing. It's around here somewhere. It's the one that I find.
Never played St. Petersburg.
It's okay. It's okay. Not that super high on my list, but Randy made me think of it. I think my game that year was Princes of Florence.
I've not played it. I've not heard of it.
Which is a building game. Princes of Florence is a very good one. It's in the Mayfair games, the series of ones of which Puerto Rico was once one. There was a series of board games all the same size. It's in the Year of the Dragon, Puerto Rico, Notre Dame. They're all exactly the same size, and they had a number on the side of them. They had a series of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it was one of those very touted game. It's a very good game. One of those that has like one critical flaw you have to play around. So you have to like bid for seats when you sit. It's not balanced without bidding for seats. Like, the third seat is just the best seat. If you don't pay something for it, in a 4-player game, the guy in seat 3 wins 53% of the time. And we have a lot of statistics. So what you do for games like that is you have a round of bidding before the game starts where you bid victory points on seats. So usually seat 3 goes for like 1.5 victory points. So at the end of the game, you lose your bid. So we would play the game as normal, but if I was in seat 3, I would lose 1.5 points at the end, and that roughly balances it out. So,
as long as you can find the mechanism, you don't want that to be the case, but as long as you can find that sort of mechanism to create the balance.
It's like that with Puerto Rico too. If you play 4-player, it's first indigo, second indigo, first corn, second corn is the starting good you start with, and first corn is demonstrably the best spot.
100% only had it on the iPad. Just like that indigo triggered me.
Yeah. It's but that's a fine one as well. That's a brilliant game.
That
one's really good
Ticket
too.
to Ride, I've only ever played on the iPad.
Yeah, Ticket to Ride is fine, but the problem is, played correctly, you will frequently have people just draw tickets forever. Literally, you just go draw. Like, you never want to build until you're forced to build. You're just like draw. Like, amongst experts, the first 60 turns are draw, and then it's just a bloodbath because. So the way this, I'm going to take 30 seconds and explain it.
My wife just did that, traveling with people that didn't do that, and
she demolished them.
Real bad.
They hate her. They hate her. So this is the game it works. Ticket to Ride is, imagine this is a map of, we use the United States of America, which is the most frequent map that's used, and there's strings of train spots where you're trying to build tracks to go from point A to point B. And it's a very simple mechanism for scoring. Whenever you build a unit of track, you get some points, ranging for, if you build like a tiny little 1-car track, you get 1, all the way up to, if you build, I think the biggest one is a 6-car track, you get 15. So you get points for building stuff, and then you complete tickets that you have in your hand that say something like, New York to Chicago, worth 16 extra points. And at the end of the game, for every ticket you completed, you get that many points. And for every ticket you don't complete, you lose that many points. So when played casually, what happens is people look at their starting tickets. I think you draw 3 and keep at least 2, and then keep 2 that are similar, and everyone starts building their trains very happily. At the high level, you don't want any of the tickets. You keep your lowest scoring ticket because you never get anything done because people just mercilessly cock block. All you do is just like, oh, block that. Looks like you're trying to build that train in front of you, build that. You don't let anyone finish anything. So the right way to play the game is to just draw train cards, which is what allows you to eventually build stuff, and then try to build the largest sections on the map. Maybe complete one ticket and stop anyone else from finishing anything. So when people who know what they're doing play against people who don't, you're just the biggest dick ever, because they're sitting there like, I was just building my train from Seattle to San Francisco, and you randomly built this one car in the middle of nowhere? What does that do for you? Doesn't do anything for me. It costs you 9 points. I was like,
I know you're unhappy.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many I've seen that exact interaction happen a half dozen times, where some very nice board gamers like yelling at someone like, why would you do that? Well, like, I can win with only 50 points if you're at negative 70 from having taken 12 tickets and finished none of them.
One final recommendation for you, and not that I'm giving you a recommendation of anything you wouldn't already know since you play games. We've really enjoyed Wingspan.
What is that?
This year's award winner. The artwork, fantastic. Like 100 and something unique birds, all hand drawn. Bird details. You're trying to build your own aviary across like land and water and some other the air, the sky, obviously.
Gotcha.
Everything's got different point values. You get additional points by laying eggs on top of your cards. Fantastic.
So Teague is in, by the way. Probably people have been looking at this as we go, but we're 15 minutes from the 8 p.m. lock game. So Teague is playing. Wiggins, Culver, Kogi, Covington, Towns starting. That's what we expected. Both Brandon Clark and Kyle Anderson in with, quote, minor minutes limits. I don't know what that means, but the fact that they're in is the most relevant part there. And Royce is Royce O'Neal, the random starting member of the Jazz. The other 4 we're pretty sure on, but Royce O'Neal will be the 5th today, not, say, Jeff Green.
I have some Royce O'Neal today.
Yeah, it didn't hit. Again, crap value day. I ranked him. I think he was actually the only one of those guys I ranked. I think I avoided the Booty. I don't think I ranked Green, but I do think I ranked Royce. I would have had some Royce on a day with value this specious against that Minnesota team that certainly allows that to happen from time to time. I would have had some Royce. Yeah.
B. Haver just said thoughts on Splendor board game. So before we just picked up Azul, Splendor was like our kind of go-to. We've got like an hour to kill.
It's funny because it's really analogous to Ticket to Ride in that the correct strategy is non-intuitive.
Yeah.
And in Ticket to Ride, everyone goes like, oh, I've got these tickets. I'm going to start building that train. Now it's done. I'm going to start building it. But that's not the smartest way, the quickest way, or the path of least resistance. You make it very obvious and people kill you straight out. In Splendor, it's that you're inclined to buy bottoms, then use them to fuel buying middle row, then use them to fuel buying top row, sort of. And that's actually not the right way. The right way to do is to basically look for the greatest ratio of victory points to jewels spent. So you have the ones that give you, 3 victory points for only 7 jewels spent. And literally it's take chips, buy a big thing, take chips, buy a big thing. That is more efficient most of the time. Yeah. You can win going the other way. But there's also like the color triads where you want to be white, red, black, or blue, green, black, or something like. There's a couple things with that too where you want to there are advantageous color things to stick on.
Yeah.
So I like Splendor, but it does not have nearly the long game of, say, Agricola or Dominion or one of those guys. Like it does not have a great amount of replayability for me among expert players. Among casual players, yeah, I can see playing 20 games of Splendor, but once you figure out the strategy, it turns into this weird thing. It's like, oh, you're trying to go white, red, black, and I know you're going to take it. So there's a lot of then you're reserving cards to block them, which is fine. It's not unplayable. It becomes
significantly more defensive.
Right, exactly. So it's I don't think it ages.
It's like the opposite of the NBA
well.
right now.
Yes, that's actually a very good point. I think that's very fair to say.
Had to bring it back
we'll
to
do our-
basketball in one last time. So
Yeah,
Fantasy
we'll do
Draft,
our-
congratulations on sponsoring the 45-minute board game podcast.
That was a bonus.
Yeah.
That was a bonus.
When you start doing board game DFS, just let us know. We have the market cornered on that podcast in the DFS
I would still
space.
be in it.
So, on that note, for Eddie, I'm Josh. Good luck tonight. Talk to you again later.